subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Synopsis, Paramecia Barrier Fruit, which has the strongest defense at the beginning, is a creation-type devil fruit. Using it to open Susanoo is not too much, right? The most evil Logia, dark fruit ability, the strongest Paramecia, shock fruit ability, the strongest phantom bee species, blue dragon form. The 4 strongest abilities are combined into one. What are you going to do with me? Chapter 1 Time Travel, Barrier Fruit. See Circle Calendar, May 5th, 1519. East Blue, Logtown. The underground warehouse inside the Bateau Underworld Bar. Hey, Boss Bader, I'm sorry, I want this devil fruit. A young man with long black hair that is 4 to 6 cents long. The ends of his somewhat wavy and curly hair are covered with blood. He looks a bit like Chun Haonan, the leading figure in Causeway Bay in Young and Dangerous. At this moment, he has a blood-stained watermelon knife in his right hand and a light green flat fruit with a pattern in his left hand. The face spattered with blood was grinning crazily, and the scar on the corner of his eye gave him a hint of evil. He glanced at the gangster's gold medal thug lying in a pool of blood and decisively took a bite of the Paramecia Barrier Fruit. Don't ignore his true strength just because he is a strategist. This young man's name is Dai Dai from Blue Star. Because his parents are both named Dai, he chose such a strange name, probably for the same reason as Yang Xiaomi. However, it was also because of this name that he got the nickname Big Daddy when he was in school, and he took advantage of many classmates and friends. It was also this nickname that gave him a bit of a young and dangerous vibe and a hint of snobbery. Coupled with his tall stature and resemblance to Chun Haonan, he became a big brother figure in the eyes of his classmates. However, it is impossible to live in a mixed society. Although Dai Dai is a handsome and loyal guy, he is still a good young man under the red flag. Studying hard and going to college is the normal trajectory for an ordinary person like him. And the reality is pretty much the same. As a new college student, he had good food, sleep, and study. He had no worries about food and clothing. His parents loved him, he had brothers and friends, and most importantly, he was chased by girls. Such a comfortable life is called satisfaction. How could he travel through time for no reason? He remembered that he seemed to have stayed up late to watch the latest dozen or so episodes of One Piece on Friday night, fell asleep in a daze, and suddenly came to this world when he woke up. What the hell? And he was actually still wearing pajamas and wore them directly to the familiar and famous execution square in Logtown. What troubles Dai Dai the most is that he actually travels through a whiteboard with no system or plugins, not even a basic language pack plugin. Dai Dai, who did not understand the language of One Piece, did not get the attention of the goddess of luck, nor did he have any adventures or help from well-wishers. In the following days, Dai Dai tried hard to determine the timeline, tried asking Marine for help, hoping to meet the kind-hearted natural idiot Tashiji or the upright smoker. But before they could find these two people, they were beaten up and roughly kicked out by the soldiers stationed at the entrance of the Marine branch because they couldn't understand the language and talk nonsense. Later, because he was really hungry and had no choice but to grab something to eat, he was beaten by the strong vendor owner. Sure enough, at the Grand Line entrance of East Blue, anyone who can open a shop in this pirate-frequented Logtown would have a hard time getting along without some force. In order to survive, the hungry Dai Dai had to pick up garbage and eat it in the garbage dump of Logtown. As a result, he was bullied by beggars and beaten by gangsters. Dai Dai didn't expect that a young man like him, who was 1.8 meters tall, could not even defeat 2 beggars in this world of pirates. This miserable life, even worse than that of a dog, made Dai Dai want to commit suicide many times and end this failed and humiliating time travel. But thinking about the resentment of being bullied by gangsters and beggars, coupled with his familiarity with the plots and various beauties and strong men in this world, he was extremely unwilling to accept it. He silently hid all his resentment. He must find an opportunity to rise completely in this world, and then wantonly vent what he had encountered these days. In order to learn the language, he lived as a mute for several months. He often took the initiative to work for various businesses in Logtown just to get a simple meal. However, there will also be some unscrupulous businessmen who will not even give him a bite of food, leaving him to do unpaid work in vain. In this way, a mute who was easy to bully but also worked hard became a little famous in Logtown. Later, because of his reputation for hard work, Dai Dai joined the Bateau family, the underworld organization in Logtown, by chance becoming a peripheral member and earning a living. In this way, Dai Dai learns language and writing while understanding the major events and timelines of this world. Soon, he also had his own nickname and new name in the Bateau family, Mute Babaya. The name was a red-haired girl named Desire, who made up a name for him as if to make fun of him based on his mute nickname. It is said that there is another meaning, which is taken from the two names Bartolomeo and Desire. Dai Dai didn't expect that in the original world, someone called him Big Daddy, but in this world, someone called him Dad again. So he did not reject the new name Desire gave him. After all, there is someone called Dad, so why not? About 2 years ago, Dai Dai had just traveled through time for less than 2 months. At that time, he had not fully learned the language of this world. He could only follow the gang members of the Bateau family to collect protection fees and act as a thug and handyman. As a result, he saw the angry boy with Madara on his face at the restaurant next to the execution square in Logtown, fighting with Marine over a meal. For the first time, he saw a fierce battle between two Logia demon fruit powers. This was a fireworks battle between White Hunter Smoker and Fire Fist Ace. This mute, for the first time, spoke quickly in front of the underworld members of the Bateau family, but he spoke in Blue Star Chinese. Holy shit, this is Fire Fist Ace. No, I want to get on his ship, Dark Fruit. Here I come. I also want to pick up Yamato. Dai Dai shouted excitedly, as if he saw himself cut off Blackbeard Teach's Dark Fruit, and then reach the pinnacle of his wonderful life. However, fate played another joke on him. Fire Fist Ace had already visited the execution platform of Roger the Pirate King. At that time, he had eaten the king's meal before starting a war with Marine, so he quickly fled the island. Seeing Fire Fist Ace's pirate ship leaving quickly, Dai Dai suddenly came to his senses, and he tried his best to chase it to the port. He felt so regretful at that moment, cursing himself for being such an idiot and mentally retarded. He actually missed the opportunity to board Ace's pirate ship. You know how much he longed to board Ace's pirate ship and become a crew member of the Spade Pirates. In this way, he can rely on his familiarity with the plot to rise step by step. The moment Dai Dai saw Fire Fist Ace, he had already planned to follow Ace into the Grand Line and New World. After Ace becomes the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, he can also join the Whitebeard Pirates and learn to lurk like Blackbeard Teach. It's best to find a way to transfer to the ship of Division for Captain Sage, find or intercept the Dark Fruit in advance, and then eat it. Yes, he just wants to steal the Logia or Dark Fruit that Blackbeard Teach has been waiting for, and snatch everything that belongs to Teach. He even thought about not giving Teach a chance to see this Dark Fruit. Otherwise, he would not be the ultimate opponent of Teach. After all, this fat, dark man is a ruthless man who can leave 3 claw marks on red-haired Shanks. However, all these plans were shattered because Ace ran too fast, and he didn't even have time to say a word to Ace. After all, the battle between Fire Fist Ace and White Hunter Smoker was too shocking and exaggerated. How could a weakling like him dare to join in the fun? As a result, Ace slipped away just like that. He left as gently as he came. He didn't give Dai Dai the slightest chance, causing him to miss an opportunity to rise in the world of One Piece. The weakling Dai Dai thought about immediately rowing a boat to chase Ace, but he was soon violently dragged away by the gang members of the Bardo family. Because the furious Smoker had already led Marine and began to angrily sweep away the pirates in Logtown. Even the gang members had to hide immediately. This also made Dai Dai completely miss the opportunity to become an Ace crew member. P.S. Ace was born on January 1st, 1500, and Luffy was born on May 5th, 1503. Ace is 3 years and 4 months older than Luffy. Both of them went to sea after their 17th birthday, so Ace went to sea about 3 years and 4 months earlier than Luffy. Chapter 2, Big Daddy Babaya. Dai Dai, who missed an opportunity to rise, had to work hard for his own survival again, continued to learn languages and characters, and continued to exercise and strengthen himself. The power that belonged to the Logia devil fruit was so shocking that Dai Dai also longed for the devil fruit's abilities. In this way, Dai Dai, who lived a bloody life in the gang, gradually became no longer innocent and became more ruthless. Because he gradually learned the language and had a brain that was 10 times smarter than the gangsters, Dai Dai got better and better in the Bateau family, and his status became higher and higher. Later, Dai Dai deliberately tried to please the ogre Bartolomeo, the boss of the Bateau family, and then contacted Bateau's most respected grandmother to gain greater power. It turns out that this grandma is the real decision-maker of the Bateau family. She is actually Bartolomeo's grandmother. This is an old woman who has been in the New World. Not only does he have great strength, but he even knows the two-color hockey, so he can treat Bartolomeo, the gang boss, like a little sheep. No wonder that after the future Bader Club goes to sea, even if he goes to the New World to make a living, he will often call back to ask this grandma about New World's navigation knowledge. Dai Dai's rapid rise and deliberate performance in the Bateau family also allowed this grandma to see his ability and wisdom. This old woman named Tang personally transferred Babaya, nicknamed Mute, to Bartolomeo's side, hoping to train Dai Di into Bartolomeo's strategic right-hand man to help them manage and develop. The Bardo family. The nickname Mute was also due to Dai Dai's power, and fewer people dared to call him this. Dai Dai also took back the nickname Big Daddy for himself to miss the life in the original world. In this case, whether others call him Big Daddy or Babaya, Dai Di's ears will automatically be filtered into Dad and Daddy to take advantage of others. Gang members with a lower status than Dai Di would call him Big Daddy, while bosses with higher status, such as Yubaba and Bartolomeo, would call Dai Di Big D. A Big D. Who doesn't like wearing a helmet? Under Dai Dai's advice and the fact that Bartolomeo did have 2 brushes, the Bartle family developed even more rapidly and brought more than 160 small towns on the islands near Logue Town into its ruling territory. It has surpassed the more than 150 towns where Straw Hat Luffy appeared in the original work. Yubaba, an old woman, finally slowly taught him some of the most basic two-color hockey training methods. However, because this grandma was worried that Babaya would be stronger than the ogre Bartolomeo, she did not continue to teach Dai Dui more things. However, she is willing to teach the navigation knowledge of the Grand Line and New World to the extremely studious Babaya, preparing to train a navigator for Bartolomeo. Dai Dai was also very loyal in assisting Bartolomeo, and even managed to win over Bartolomeo's childhood sweetheart, Desire, with his earthy words of love. Help him take good care of this handsome and beautiful red-haired beauty. After all, Bartolomeo, the ogre, is not interested in women, so Dai Dai can only cultivate this fertile land for him. I have to say, this hot red-haired girl is very sassy and moist, and she becomes even more proactive after soaking her, much more energetic than the girls from Blue Star. Now that he has eaten the Paramecia Barrier Fruit, he plans to completely integrate into the world of pirates. From now on, his new name will be Daddy Babaya. After all, the name Big Daddy Babaya has already gained a bit of fame in the waters of Logue Town. He is the ruthless strategist of the Bateau family. And the name also comes from Desire, his first woman in this world. Now that he has the ability of the Barrier Fruit, he can finally get rid of his position as a dog-headed strategist. Dai Dai ignored the corpse on the ground. Even if Bartolomeo and Yubaba would blame him when they found out, he had nothing to fear, because no one knows how much strength and trump card Dai Dai, the 6th person, hides. And in East Blue, it is estimated that not many people can break the Barrier Fruit's defense. At least there is no Yubaba with even a little bit of armament hockey in Logue Town. After all, even Kazuki Oden, who has been to the final island of Raftel and possesses Conqueror's hockey, cannot break Kurozumi Semimaru's protective barrier. Dai Dai threw away the bloody watermelon knife in his hand and wiped his bloody hands casually. He crossed his middle and index fingers, and a light green, transparent barrier instantly appeared. It was very hard, as if no attack could break its solid defense. Paramecia Barrier Fruit is a creation ability in Devil Fruit. The development direction of Mr. 3, Doflamingo, Cracker, and Katakuri can all provide me with a good development idea. Dai whispered excitedly that although he could not catch a ride with Fire Fist Ace and go to New World to plan Dark Fruit, he has now gained a very good Devil Fruit ability, and the development potential of this fruit is also very strong. Barrier fruits can be developed into many shapes, including stairs, columns, spheres, rackets, and even simple giant humanoid shapes. This reminds Dai of the Gundam Susanoo in the Hokage world. Isn't that also an indestructible energy barrier? However, Paramecia seems to require a specific gesture to activate. This must be overcome as soon as possible. Dai thought of Nico, Robin, Foxy, and Bartolomeo, who all had to make specific gestures to activate the Devil Fruit ability. However, after you've seen the mid to late New World, Doflamingo, Cracker, and Katakuri, these Paramecia ability user bosses, who will still be restricted by specific gestures. If you can only activate Devil Fruit's abilities through specific gestures, then your development level is definitely not deep enough. At least Doflamingo and Katakuri, who have awakened the Devil Fruit ability, can create threads and glutinous dough at will without having to stick to any gestures. Cracker still needs to clap his hands to continuously summon powerful cookie soldiers, so his cookie fruit may not have awakened yet. This is similar to the history of the development of Hokage's seals. In the early days, every ninja would conscientiously form seals to activate ninjutsu. However, later on, the seals became more and more simplified, even to the point of exaggeration where they could get whatever they asked for by clapping their hands together. Especially the Water Dragon Bomb technique activated by Zabuza and Kakashi with 44 seals. But in the hands of Senju Tobarama and 10,000 Years Jinin Kosuka, it only requires 4 seals, and Terumi may only need 6 seals. There are also a ridiculous amount of Muji ninjutsu in the later stages. Now I need to cross the fingers of both hands to activate the ability of the Barrier Fruit. But in the future, I can also make seals with one hand, seals with my toes, seals with my pupils, and even summon without seals. Dai said with confidence. After trying some tricks, he directly grabbed the body from the ground and threw it into the large debris box in the warehouse. Sure, I'm sorry. If I want to blame you, it's because you're only loyal to Batoa. Dai didn't feel any guilt at all. After all, if you don't care for yourself, you will be punished by heaven and earth. What's more, he is not a native of this world. This barrier fruit that was supposed to be dedicated to Bartolomeo has now been intercepted by Dai, the strategist. Even the gold medal fighter who escorted it, Yamashita Nakahide, was attacked and killed by Dai. There was no way. This guy was the #1 subordinate of the Ogre Bartolomeo, and he was loyal to Bartle. So Dai had no choice but to kill him. Yesterday, Yamashita Nakahide actually got a Devil Fruit while searching for loot after clearing opponents on an island, and he immediately contacted Bartolomeo using a phone bug. As it turned out, it was such a coincidence that Tua went out without the phone bug. As a military advisor, Dai was at the headquarters and casually received the call. Yamashita Nakahide did not hide it and happily shared the good news with the military advisor. However, Daizai asked Zhongxiu intentionally or unintentionally if anyone else knew about the existence of this Devil Fruit. As a result, Yamashita Zonghide said no, which made Dai immediately become greedy. Since Dark Fruit is not so easy to obtain, there is no reason for Dai to not want the Barrier Fruit that is delivered to his door. However, as Bartolomeo's absolutely loyal subordinate, Yamashita Nakahide personally dedicated the Devil Fruit to his boss and refused a hand over the Barrier Fruit to Dai Duo. This was also to show off in front of Bartolome. Dai could only find a reason to invite Yamashita Zhongxiu to the underground warehouse, then kill this loyal dog, and seize the Barrier Fruit. Chapter 3 Red-haired woman Desire. After hiding Yamashita Zhongxiu's body, Dai left the underground warehouse directly, but it was only a matter of time before he was exposed. Daddy, in the Bateau underworld bar, a captain of the Bateau family guarding the warehouse saw their ruthless military advisor, Big Daddy, Babaya, walking out with blood on his clothes and hands. Brother Yamasha Nakahide, who was called into the warehouse by Babaya, did not show up. A terrible thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Big Daddy, did Babaya, a ruthless military strategist, kill the gold medal thug, Nakahide Yamashita? And Yamasha Nakahide also didn't believe that Babaya really dared to take action in the family's underground warehouse. So he was easily attacked and killed by this strategist. Shit, don't talk too much. Dai Dai grinned cruelly and said, shooing away the frightened squad leader who turned pale. He was already planning to go to sea and no longer dwell in the weakest East Blue. There's a lot of world out there waiting for him to explore. There's stronger hockey and taijutsu to learn. He must become stronger to face this magnificent era. The beggars, gangsters, and even the shop owners who bullied him for being mute have all been sent to the West by Dai Dai to recite sutras. In the past 2 years, he has been suppressed for too long. The old woman still does not fully trust him and has never taught him the subsequent cultivation methods of double color hockey. Now, after getting the barrier fruit, he wants to steal the two-color hockey training method from the old woman in his own way, and even wants to turn the Bateau family into the Babaya family. Dai Dai left the bustling Bateau underworld bar as if he was not worried about the coming crisis at all. He returned to his home and took a good hot bath. Looking at myself in the mirror, I have 8-pack abs and muscles all over my body, full of strength. This is the result of his lifeless training in the past 2 years. The hideous scars at the corners of his eyes and chest not only did not destroy the beauty, but also made him look a little more hockey. As a dog-headed strategist, he has explosive muscles and is more powerful than a gold medal fighter. That's not too much, right? After all, the word said that the muscles of the back must be trained to look like the word benevolence and virtue. He quickly changed into a new set of clothes. Unexpectedly, after coming to this world, his body developed again. His height has exceeded 2 meters, reaching 2.26 meters, which is as tall as Yao Yao in basketball. But in the world of One Piece, he is still a dwarf. He looked at the demon sword on the knife holder, 3rd generation Kitetsu, and took it in his hand without hesitation, letting the strange demonic energy from the blade wrap around his arm. Dai Dai waved the demonic sword expressionlessly, demonstrating a fierce and ruthless sword technique that was not belonging to a dog-headed strategist. Basic skill, chopping melon. Dai Dai split a huge sword training stone in half with one stroke of his sword. This basic skill was the various killing moves he had learned on his own in the past 2 years. Basic skills, the full name is Kung Fu that can basically kill the enemy, which covers swordsmanship, and physical skills. Previously, he had used the advantage of the plot and the fact that he was a ruthless strategist of the Bader family to successfully buy the Ryukato, 3rd generation Kitetsu, and Ryokitai Yukiguru from Ippenmatsu, the owner of the Lowtown weapons store. At the beginning, Dai Dai had not completely conquered 3rd generation Ghost, so he could only go out and kill people with the good sword Snow. But I didn't expect that Mrs. Tang would forcibly borrow Liang Kuai Dao Shuezhou because Dai Dai was the brain trust of the Bateau family and did not need to fight anymore, and gave it to the boss, the ogre Bartolomeo, to use. For this reason, Dai Dai was secretly angry for several days. Finally, Desire, a red-haired beauty, came over to comfort him. Only then did Dai Dai have more opportunities to get along with him and took the opportunity to capture Desire. This may also be regarded as a kind of revenge and venting. However, after getting along for a long time, Desire got better and better, and Dai Dai gradually fell in love with this girl. Apart from liking this and liking that, Desaya's strength and potential are pretty good, and he can barely be a member of Dai Dai's future team. After half a day, Dai Dai practiced both the barrier fruit ability and basic skills. Bang, bang, bang. After a brief knock on the door, Dai Dai's door was kicked open. A red figure rushed in quickly, grabbed his hand, and ran out. Why did you kill Yamashita Nakahide? Don't you know he is Bader's most capable subordinate? Now, Bak Tual and Grandma, and their people are going to deal with your family problems. Let's run quickly. Dazaya's red hair was floating, and she pulled Dai Dai out as hard as she could, shouting anxiously and quickly. Dai Dai could even see her round oscillating. No need to run. I will make it clear to Yupa today that I am ready to go to sea. Dazaya, do you want to go to sea with me? Dai Dai used his arms to pull Dazaya into his arms as she rushed forward, slapped her semicircular buttocks, and asked seriously, although this woman has had negative contact with him, love in this world does not seem to be strong. Everyone has their own ambitions and dreams. Moreover, he is still thinking about the old woman's two-color hockey training method and the borrowed good sword Yukizakari in Bartolomeo's hand. So how could he run away like this? Isn't it just for today that you have endured for 2 years? Dazaya was also shocked by Dai Dai's strength. Why did this guy suddenly become so strong? After all, she and Dai Dai already knew the root cause and had pulled out Big Radish many times. When she saw the ominous demonic knife in Dai Dai's hand, her expression suddenly changed. Have you been affected by this demonic sword? Put it down quickly. Let's run away now. When Batual and Grandma have calmed down, we will come back to apologize and ask for their forgiveness. Dazaya shouted anxiously. She knew that the demon sword third-generation Kitetsu would bring misfortune to people. And now that Babaya actually did something stupid like killing her family, she must have been influenced by this demon sword. She shouldn't have let Babaya keep this ominous demonic sword in the first place. Thinking of the trial between Batual and Grandma, Dazaya looked solemn and uneasy. She had seen Grandma's strength before, and her aging body still had great strength and amazing speed. She is not what an old woman should look like at all. Bader is also very powerful, and this guy has a very bad character. The nickname of Ogre is not just a talk. His set of sharp teeth can really devour the flesh and blood of his enemies. Dazaya personally saw Bader bite off the enemy's arm and then eat it bloody. Big D, I hope you can give me an explanation. There were heavy footsteps outside, and an old woman's voice came in. Grandma, why are you talking so much? Anyone who kills a traitor to the family should be dealt with according to the family law. Kill Babaya. Didn't you say that our family has the same iron code as the one on the ship of the Whitebeard pirates? A green-haired coxcomb with a gold nose ring opened his sharp-toothed mouth and said unhappily. The open wine-red cloak exposed his strong abdominal muscles. There was also a long sword with a white handle on his waist. Knife. It was Shuezo, the good sword that Dai Duo was borrowed. Yubaba and Bartolomeo, along with hundreds of gangsters, arrived outside Dai Dai's house and surrounded the place. Explanation? That's because I wanted to go to sea, so I competed with Shioer to test my strength, but Shioer died like this. I wonder if my mother-in-law can give me all the training methods of double-color hockey, then return the borrowed Yukizai to me, right? Dai Duo carried the demon sword third-generation Kitetsu, held Dazaya's hand, and came to the door, grinning at Yubaba and Bartolomeo. Chapter 4. Brave Action, the First Battle of the Barrier. Seeing the confident Babaya, Yubaba also frowned. This was not like the low-key strategist Babaya in the past. Did he have something to rely on? You fart. Yamashita Zhongshio's lower back was stabbed to pieces, with more than a dozen wounds. You told me it was a sparring match? You traitor. Lousy is going to kill you. Bartolomeo bared his fangs and said angrily, and he had already drawn the sharp sword Snow in his hand and pointed it at Babaya. Babaya, if Yamashita Nakahide has done anything that I'm sorry to you for, you can tell me, and I can seek justice for you. Yubaba still wants to find out why Babaya wanted to kill Yamashita Nakahide, and what is Babaya's current confidence. She didn't want Babaya, a talent she had worked so hard to cultivate, to run away like this. However, if Babaya has turned against her and killed her family innocently, she will still kill Babaya to correct the atmosphere and rules of the Bateau family. Yubaba, I know. It must be because Babaya came into contact with the demon sword, third-generation Kitetsu, so he was deceived by the demon sword and accidentally made a heavy move, killing Yamashita Nakahide. Dazaya immediately said that she was also torn between the Yubaba, who raised her, and Bartolomeo, who she grew up with, and her current man. She also doesn't want to see them turn against each other. Demon sword? I didn't expect you, Babaya, to be so lucky. In addition to the good sword Yukizuru, you also have a third-generation Kitetsu. Yubaba squinted and looked at the long knife on Babaya's shoulder. There was indeed an ominous smell on it, which made it look very extraordinary. Is this where Babaya's confidence lies? Is it really because of the influence of the demon sword that Babaya's personality changed and killed Yamashita Nakahide? However, just now, Babaya's tone of asking for the two-color hockey training method and Ryo Cueto Yukizai made her very unhappy. Not only Yubaba is unhappy, but Bartolomeo is even more unhappy. Lousy doesn't care if he was influenced by the demon sword or not. He killed Yamashita Zonghide anyway. Since he can't bear the demon sword, then give it to me, too. Bartolomeo grinned dangerously and said that he felt that third-generation Kitetsu seemed to be more in line with his ogre temperament. So this good sword Yukizai should become his collection. Ugh, you still want to steal my third-generation Kitetsu? Dai sneered, pulled Desire behind, glanced at the arrogant Bartolomeo, and then stared at Yuba, a short old woman. In his eyes, his only opponent is Yubaba. As for Bartolomeo, he no longer takes him seriously. Babaya, as long as you hand over third-generation Ghost and then be imprisoned for a month, I can't forgive your mistakes and continue to be the strategist of the Bateau family. There is already a dangerous aura under Granny Yu's small glasses, and her hand behind her back were hanging down. Her seemingly old and frail body actually gave off the aura of a strong man. No. Yubaba, you still didn't hear what I said. I want to go to sea. Then I hope you will give me the training method of the two-color hockey and return the good sword Yukigaru to me. Dai said seriously, his right hand holding the demon's sword, third-generation Ghost Tetsu, at an angle, and his left hand hanging casually, but the index and middle fingers were already crossed. FKU, Dai, it's a lousy. The ogre Bartolomeo was so angry at Dai Dui's words that he launched a brazen attack. Holding the sharp sword Shuezo in both hands, he jumped up and struck hard at the traitor Babaya. Barrier, left-hand shield. Basic skills, sweep thousands of armies. A small transparent barrier shield appeared on Dai's left arm, which immediately blocked Bartolomeo's violent slash. Third-generation Kitetsu in his right hand slashed horizontally and slashed at Bartolomeo's waist with great force. If this knife could hit, Bartolomeo, who only knew how to use simple weapons and entanglement, might be cut in half by Dai Dui with a knife in two parts. Babaya, you gone too far. You actually have devil fruit powers. I saw Yubaba, a short old woman, already appearing next to Bartolomeo. She blocked Dai Duo's fatal blow with her gray hands. She also saw the transparent barrier blocking the long knife in her chin and said angrily, Babaya not only hides the demon sword third-generation Kitetsu, but also hides his strength and devil fruit ability. His heart is so cruel. Yuba's gray-black hands collided with Dai's third-generation Kitetsu. Sparks actually flew out, and it looked very hard. Yubaba, your armament hockey is a little weaker and the color is lighter. Barrier cone nail. A transparent shoe-shaped barrier cone appeared on Dai's right foot, and he kicked Bartolomeo away with one kick. With a forceful kick, Bartolomeo vomited blood and flew backwards. His abdomen, there was also a hideous wound. This is your confidence. Yubaba didn't expect that Babaya would dare to be distracted from dealing with Bartolomeo, so she suddenly kicked Babaya's left foot, which was supporting him, to completely destroy one of his legs. Bang! Yubaba felt as if her foot had kicked a piece of steel, causing her feet wrapped around armament hockey to bear the tremendous force of the shock, causing her to stagger and jump back. She could feel that the bones in her feet seemed to have cracks, and she felt extremely painful. Not bad. This is my confidence. Barrier. Rangyo rushes over his shoulders. Dai quickly sheathed the third-generation Ghost. The index and middle fingers of his hands were intertwined. A huge barrier appeared in front of him, and then he was pushed by him and hit the old lady Tang at high speed. Just now, he could cross his toes, attach a barrier cone to his right foot, and attach a protective barrier to his left foot. With these two moves, Yubaba and Bartolomeo suffered a big loss. I don't believe it. My armament hockey can't break your devil fruit ability. Yubaba's right fist turned gray and black again, and she suddenly swung it towards Babaya, who was rushing over. It's no use, old woman, die, carrying the resentment and anger of the past 2 years, violently crashed into this short old woman. No! Tears burst out of Desia's eyes. Her most important family members were killing each other, leaving her wondering what to do. Boom! A small figure was knocked out and hit the wall, raising countless dust. This scene frightened countless gangsters. The grandma who could beat the boss of Bateau to a black and swollen face was actually beaten away. Everyone, kill him! Bartolomeo's sharp teeth have been stained with blood, and they look even more ferocious and terrifying at the moment. Like an evil ghost. Under the order of the boss, the hundreds of younger brothers who came back also took up their weapons and shouted together to kill the traitor Big Daddy Babaya. Barrier Siege Engine. Dai crossed his hands, and the index and middle fingers on his hands were also crossed together. A huge barrier shield appeared. The most terrifying thing was that sharp wolf fangs appeared in front of the shield. Dai rushed towards hundreds of gangsters unstoppably. For a moment, the figure was thrown away, and screams filled the whole place. Wherever the barrier siege vehicle went, flesh and blood flew everywhere, leaving a terrifying bloody path. Chapter 5, Going to Sea. The huge barrier siege vehicle dissipated, and there was no trace of bloodline on Dai's body, but his shoes were soaked in blood and minced meat. Desire looked at this man, who seemed to be unknown to him, in fear. He actually killed so many brothers. Babaya, you must die a good death. Seeing so many brothers die tragically, Bartolomeo looked at Babaya with red eyes and struck at Babaya angrily with his sharp sword. Snow, you are also half responsible for their deaths. It was you who ordered them to die. Dai, who has now gone crazy, grinned cruelly. Dai once again used the barrier shield to block Bartolomeo's slash, wrapped his right hand around the thin armament hockey, and punched Bator in the face, knocking him to the ground. Dai Duo looked at the teeth in Bartolomeo's mouth, leaned over and snatched the good sword Shue sheathed back from his hand, and pulled out the scabbard on Bartolomeo's waist. It's not yours. Don't rob it. Dai Duo will put Liang's quick sword, Yukiro, back into its sheath, and the demon sword, 3rd generation Kitetsu, on his waist. Under Bartolomeo's angry gaze, Dai once again walked towards the ruins where Yubaba was. Is this old woman dead? Under the half-intelligent and half-ineffective observation hockey, Dai could feel that this old woman was not dead yet. He immediately went over to dig her out, only to see that the old woman's right hand had been fractured. Her shallow armament hockey, coupled with age and beauty, could not withstand the huge impact of the barrier shield. Baba Yu, teach me the 2-color hockey training method honestly. Otherwise, you and Bader will. Dai sneered. He had made so many contributions to the Bateau family, but not only did he not gain her complete trust, he was even robbed of the good sword Shuezhua. How could he, a time traveler, swallow such a breath? Moreover, Granny Yu only taught Dai a little bit about how to awaken the 2-color hockey, and she kept the rest hidden and refused to teach him. This greatly delayed Dai's time to go to sea. If he hadn't obtained the barrier fruit, he wouldn't have planned to go to sea. He may have to wait until Luffy goes to sea, but now he could go to sea a year earlier than Luffy. This gives him more time to develop and become stronger. After all, he is not as talented as Straw Hat Luffy. He can defeat the Shichibukai in a few months, complete the Grand Line, and enter the New World to defeat the 4 emperors in 2 or 3 years. Babaya, how did you become like this? You can't hurt Grandma. The red-haired Desire quickly rushed over, blocked Yubaba's face, and glared at the man. Seeing Desire like this made Dai a little upset. Yubaba, I just want the 2-color hockey method. Otherwise, I don't mind letting the Bateau family disappear or become a Babaya family. Dai ignored Desire's anger. He could not give up the opportunity to become stronger, whether it was to kill Yamashita Nakahide, to seize the barrier fruit, or to obtain the two-color hockey training method in Yubaba's hands. He doesn't have that much time to continue to gain Yubaba's trust, because the great era is coming, and he must race against time to strengthen himself and develop his own power. I can give it to you, but you leave Logue Town immediately, and you are not allowed to harm the Bateau family. Also, you leave Desire. Yubaba said angrily that she didn't expect to be defeated by a mute white-eyed wolf in a place like East Blue. You want to die? Dai glanced at Desire, and then looked at the old woman with murderous intent. She actually wanted to leave his first woman? Babaya. No, don't hurt Grandma. I won't go to sea with you. UBD who hurt your family. Desire protected Yubaba with red eyes, tears, and gritted teeth as she looked at this beloved man. Not only did he kill the gold medal fighter Yamashita Nakahide for no reason, he also hurt Bartolomeo and Grandma and killed so many brothers. She could not forgive this man. Moreover, Dai has concealed so much strength and devil fruit ability from himself. Does he really love himself? Hearing Desire's words, Dai felt a heartache in his heart. He took a trembling step back and looked at Desire's angry, tearful eyes. He clenched his fists and showed an extremely complicated expression in his eyes. Give me the two-color hockey training method. Dai gritted his teeth and shouted at the old woman Tang. He neither agreed nor refused, but just stared at the old woman who was plotting against him. In my dormitory, under the third brick on the right side of the bed, Yubaba seemed to have felt Babaya's crazy murderous intent, and she no longer teased this angry beast. She was satisfied that Desire could leave this white-eyed wolf. I hope you won't lie to me. Otherwise, I will come back and kill you. Dai glanced at Desire and left without looking back. He started running slowly, not wanting to see Desire's eyes. He ran frantically to the headquarters of the Bader family, broke open Yubaba's room, smashed her luxurious bed, flipped over the bottom of the bed, and finally found a small book of hockey's training experience. He also saw some rare gold and silver jewelry, and he grabbed them all. He hated this old woman and didn't want to leave anything to her. Not only did this old woman not teach him how to follow up hockey and rob him of his sharp knife, but now she actually plotted against him and Desire. Today, for the sake of Desire, let them go. He also completely hid his little feelings for Desire. Feelings are just an obstacle on his way to becoming stronger. He took the things he found and headed to the port of Logue Town without looking back, where there was a small sailboat specially prepared by him. In the past 2 years, he has also learned a lot about Grand Line and New World navigation. In East Blue, a peaceful sea area with few extreme weather conditions, there is no need to worry. He never wanted to see the look in Desire's eyes again, and he gave up on annexing the Bateau family. He wants to build his own power from scratch. Dai drove a small sailboat filled with supplies out of the port. He looked at this Logue Town, where he had stayed for a year or two, and a sense of ambition arose spontaneously. On this day, he will also dive into the sea and fly across the sky. Suddenly, he saw that familiar red figure, and his heart trembled slightly. But the next moment, he became determined again. Let us all bury this feeling in our hearts together. You need your family, and I have my own ambitions. Dai set sail, completely away from the Logue Town port, and sailed towards the distance. And the red-haired woman by the port finally couldn't help but slumped on the ground and burst into tears, crying heartbreakingly. The man who could make her happy with earthy love words left her. Yubaba and Bartolomeo, who had just bandaged their wounds, also appeared behind Desire, looking at the sailboat going away. Yubaba looked at the crying Desire and sighed, not knowing what she was thinking. Bartolomeo, on the other hand, cursed Babaya as a traitor. Sooner or later, he would go to sea and kill this BD. Chapter 6 Rorinoa, Zoro, a certain sea area in East Blue. Seagulls were chirping merrily, and a warm morning sun shone on a small sailboat. The sea breeze was gentle and the waves were roaring. A muscular man with a bare upper body was swinging a knife continuously. Large beads of sweat dripped from his body onto the deck, forming a black pattern. After practicing hard, I still fall behind. I have to fight to quickly improve my strength. Died duo put away third-generation Ghost, picked up a towel and wiped his body, then picked up a bottle of water and drank it wildly. As his throat continued to surge up and down, the water bottle was quickly emptied. He took out Yuba's two-color hockey training booklet and continued to study it. Armament hockey can be practiced continuously and continuously improve physical fitness. But observation hockey still requires the cooperation of others or finding a dangerous beast island to practice hard. However, the best thing is to fight to the death with the enemy in order to master it faster. Now Dai is just blindfolded, dodging dozens of swinging iron balls hanging from the ceiling to initially practice observation hockey. But the effect is not very good. After all, these iron balls are too slow and have no consciousness. Dai turned the sail, controlled the rudder, controlled the direction of the small sailboat, and then began to cook for himself. What a waste of time. We must find a few subordinates quickly. While eating, Dai checked the newspaper. This was a newspaper belonging to East Blue, not the kind of worldwide newspaper published by Big News Morgan's World Economic News Agency. However, these newspapers also cooperate with Morgan's, have channels to obtain newspaper delivery services from Newsbird, and seem to have the shadow of world government. No matter which newspaper it is, Duo will buy one, and Bailey will not be stingy about this. After all, his only source of information now is newspapers. Currently, he has neither his own intelligence organization nor allies and partners. Dai took out a stack of East Blue's bounty orders and looked at the wanted criminals on it. They were all crooked and cracked dates, but they could all be used as sacrifices to feed third-generation Ghost. Slaughter can increase the ghost energy of the demon sword, and armament hockey can cultivate the sword into a black sword. He wants to try to make a black sword by himself. Some famous knives have just been cast, and they already have the level of a good sword or a great sword, with a very high starting point. Some knives were trained step by step by their owners from an ordinary knife to become famous black knives through hundreds of battles and training with armament hockey. In the Wanakuni chapter, Jaiki Maru said that the black sword Shusui was a black sword that Shimatsuki Ryoma had trained through hundreds of battles in his career. When Mihawk taught Zoro to cover the blade with armament hockey, he also said, "All swords can become black swords." Such words. Dai continued to check the bounty orders for the pirate groups wandering around. He could not find anyone for a while. Only some pirate groups with territories could be found clearly. In fact, Dai was a bit puzzled. Why didn't Smoker, the pirate group that owned territory like the Dragon and the Clown Buggy, go capture them? If the evil dragon bribed the Mouse Colonel and colluded with Marine to evade capture, then the Clown Buggy occupied Orange Town without Marine to take care of it. Could it be that the Marine branch has strict regulations and cannot arrest prisoners across the border? Otherwise, Colonel Mouse is in the 16th branch and Colonel Monka is in the 153rd branch. How could he be as lawless as a local emperor? Smoker is also the colonel of the Logtown branch. According to their military rank and position, they are Marines of the same level. So even though they have a huge gap in strength, they still have no right to interfere in areas under the jurisdiction of others. Later, Smoker also disobeyed his superior's orders and forcibly left the Logue town, where he was stationed, entering the Grand Line to hunt down the Straw Hat Pirates. If it hadn't been for the bargain in Alabasta, where the Marine headquarters gave Smoker the credit for arresting 7 warlords of the Sea Crocodile, Smoker's position would probably have been downgraded a few levels. After all, he has repeatedly disobeyed his superior's orders and left his post without authorization. This kind of behavior is taboo in Marine. If the colonel of the branch can only operate within the sea areas under his own jurisdiction, then it seems that the Marines of the headquarters can go into all seas to capture pirates. Dai remembered Captain Finn Beauty of his headquarters and was able to enter the East Blue to hunt down the defeated Creek pirates. He also captured the ghost man Akin and imprisoned him for a few days. Forget it. Marines shit is none of your own business. First find a few pirate groups to practice, and then find some subordinates. Dai continued to control the small sailboat and headed towards Orange Town, the territory of Buggy the Clown. Apart from Buggy having a relatively fixed territory, on the other hand, he was very interested in this trainee crew member of One Piece. However, it backfired. He had just adjusted his direction according to the East Blue map for a while when he spotted a pirate ship quietly appearing behind him and chased after it, even firing at Dai's small sailboat. Not only did Dai not panic, he was even a little excited. Unexpectedly, the guy who was practicing hand training came to his door. He immediately turned the ship's bow and blocked the shells. The pirates on the opposite side seemed to have noticed that Dai was a bit powerful, so they stopped shelling and slowed down. Dai quickly pulled the sail and chased the pirate ship. He wanted to leave after blowing up his ship, but there was no door. The next moment, another small boat appeared quickly from the right. There were only 3 people on it, but the green hair of one of them was particularly eye-catching. "It's him!" Dai's eyes lit up. He actually met the green algae head, Roronoa Zoro. What a coincidence! Isn't this a powerful and loyal crew member with unlimited potential? At this time, on the Tulip Pirates, there was a long-faced man wearing a blue jumpsuit, a pink belt tied around his waist, and 2 long knives with a purple tulip on his head. He pressed his hands on the handle of a knife. Seemed a little panicked. He is the captain of this pirate ship, Rika, a young East Blue pirate with a bounty of only 8 million. "Captain, that guy over there seems to be the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Let's run." A pirate with a yellow tulip on his head quickly suggested to the captain. He saw the green-haired pirate hunter paddling frantically, and the small boat was also approaching them at a very fast speed. The waves were splashing several meters high at such a paddling speed, which showed the opponent's powerful strength. "Afraid what? Are you afraid of? There are only 3 of them. Let me fire on them," Captain Rika immediately ordered, with a few drops of cold sweat breaking out on his face. After all, he had also heard of the name of the East Blue pirate hunter. "No, Captain, the sailboat we just attacked is also rushing towards us quickly," the pirate with the cannon on his back yelled. All the cannonballs he had just fired were blocked by the person opposite. One look showed that the other person was also a master, and now Roronoa Zoro is the same, standing on the bow of the ship, easily cutting down their cannonballs. Seeing the 2 ships approaching, the Tulip pirates could only turn to run away like crazy, cursing why they were so unlucky today to meet 2 masters. Chapter 7: Gambling. Fight Zoro. With Zoro, Joseph, and Johnny rowing together, they finally succeeded in catching up with the Tulip Pirates' pirate ship and entangled the pirate group. Zoro also excitedly won a fight to get the wine and meal money. He had not opened a business for many days and lived a miserable life of being full for 1 day and hungry for 2 days. After all, because of Lucci's attributes, he only pays attention to randomness when hunting pirates. However, yesterday I met 2 little fans, Joseph and Johnny, and with them leading the way, I was able to find a bounty target today. Although the strength of these 2 young men is a bit lacking, as long as they can lead the way, he will be responsible for killing people. The 8 million bounty offered by the captain of the Tulip Pirates is enough for them to live comfortably for a while. After Roronoa Zoro got on the boat, he chopped down everyone he saw, causing blood to fly everywhere. At this time, Dai's sailboat also caught up. Without saying a word, he jumped onto the pirate ship and saw a group of pirates besieging Zoro. Joseph and Johnny could barely deal with 3 or 4 pirates. "Strength is a la carte. You dare to bombard my ship just now. Are you ready to pay the price now?" As soon as Dai jumped on board, he pulled out his 3rd-generation ghost. The powerful, ominous aura immediately attracted everyone's attention. Even Roronoa Zoro looked at the demon sword in Dai's hand, revealing a ray of light. "Hey, these guys are my prey." Zoro once again chopped down a pirate with 1 blow. Like a wild beast, he looked at Duo, a stranger who seemed to have good strength. "They shell my ship. They are your prey, and they are also my prey." Dai quickly rushed towards Captain Rika of the Tulip Pirates and cut off the long sword that Rika blocked with 1 blow, and also hit him hard on the shoulder, leaving a huge scar. Captain Rika fell to the ground and screamed in pain. He kept kicking his feet and retreated, and the 2nd sword was quickly struck. His pupils looked at the chopped, ominous, demonic sword with fear, and infinite despair surged in his heart. "Dang, a long knife suddenly appeared, blocking the murderous demon knife. The two knives collided, shaking and spattering sparks. Hey, your strength is pretty good. Your knife is pretty good too. You can actually cut this guy's knife in half with one slash. But I told you he is my prey. Roronoa Zoro said with a grin, looking at the stranger with warlike eyes, as if he saw a powerful opponent. Roronoa Zoro, I know you are a swordsman who went to sea to challenge the world's greatest swordsman, but with your strength and your crazy behavior, I probably won't be able to produce the weakest East Blue in your life. My name is Dadi Babaya. Are you interested in forming a group and setting off to the Grand Line together to challenge the world's strongest? Dai said with a grin. The third-generation Kitetsu in his hand kept pressing down and even wrapped around the most basic armament haki, making up for the slight quality gap between the good Kaitao, third-generation Kitetsu, and the big Kaitai, Wadu Ikamanji. Let's see what strength you have. Zoro quickly pulled out a standard long knife with his left hand again and slashed at Dai's waist. The momentum was so fierce that a roar broke out in the air. I'm not a dual sword swordsman, but I can do it a little bit. Dai also pulled out the good sword Shui Zai on his waist and blocked Zoro's fierce attack. Another famous sword? Zoro's eyes lit up. He actually encountered two famous swords in one day. If he could get both of them, he would have 3 handy weapons in his 3-sword style. Good knife, Snow. How about it? Do you want it? If you beat me, it's yours. If you lose, or it's a tie, you go to sea with me. Dai laughed and shook Zoro away. The two of them took a few steps back, distanced themselves, and looked at each other closely. What a good bet. Then I'll take this handful of snow, Roronoa Zoro said with a grin, and his tone became serious. He quickly tied up his turban, showed a beast-like look, bit Wado Yamanji in his mouth, and held a knife in each hand. Whether it's for Rio, Kwaisho Yukazuru, or the 8 million bounty of the Tulip Pirates, it's worth using his strongest moves. And he is very confident in his own strength. I just like your cheerfulness. After you become my partner, I will also give you this knife. You will definitely make a profit. Dai showed a smile that his plan was successful, then sheathed the good sword Snow, inserted it directly into the deck, and pointed the third-generation Kitetsu at Zoro. He is not good at the 2-sword style, and his strongest ability is the Devil Fruit ability. He also needs the assistance of finger gestures to display stronger combat effectiveness. I won't lose. Zoro smiled confidently and firmly. Then you definitely can't win. Dai also said with certainty, with the ability of the Barrier Fruit, is it possible for him to lose? Santuhyu Sgiki Seongzao. Without saying a word, Zoro rushed forward at high speed and slashed Dai. The 3 knives could slash at the enemy in 3 directions. It's my first time to fight a 3-sword swordsman, so it's really a bit uncomfortable. Barrier armor. Dai crossed the index and middle fingers of his left hand, and a large number of small shields appeared on his limbs and body, forming a set of simple armor that attached to his body. Dai ignored Zoro's slashes with 2 ordinary long knives and directly slashed at Zoro with third-generation Kitetsu in both hands. Seeing Dai using such a lifeless move, Zoro was so frightened that he quickly returned to the defense. He would not lose his life like this. However, the advantage of his 3 knives appeared at this time. The knife in his right hand and the knife in his mouth were used to block Dai's fierce blow, but the knife in his left hand had already hit Dai's waist. Ding! X2. Zoro felt that his left-hand knife struck hard steel, and his right-hand knife was actually cracked by Dai's demon sword, and he was also slashed away by Dai's 2-handed sword. What kind of ability is that? Can you actually create armor? Zoro looked at the hard and transparent armor on Dai and felt that it was very difficult. His left sword actually had a gap broken by this armor. What the hell is this? A Devil Fruit ability. So you don't have to worry that I will compete with you for the world's greatest swordsman. Dai smiled and said, he is not a pure swordsman, and he is not interested in the world's greatest swordsman. I won't be afraid of any opponent, but you broke 2 of my knives at once. It seems that we need to fight quickly. 3 swordsman style, ghost slaying. Zoro felt that his two ordinary knives could not last long, so he immediately used his killing move. He held knives in his left and right hands, made a cross posture, disappeared in an instant, struck at Dai Dai, and suddenly appeared behind Dai Dai. Barrier, spherical shield. Clang. X3. There were three loud noises, and Dai Dai stood intact, while the cracks in the two swords in Zoro's hands increased again, and they might break into several pieces at any time. Chapter 8. The First Crew Member. Roronoa Zoro looked back at Dai Dai with an incredible look in his eyes. He couldn't break through the opponent's defense at all. It seems that your sword is not good. I will give you this snow first. You can use your strongest move. If you can break my defense, take Yukiko and the loot from this pirate ship. If not, the snow is still yours, but you have to go to sea with me. Dai Dai directly pulled out the good sword Shuezo and threw it to Zoro, and then said, "Hey, what nonsense are you talking about? Brother Zoro will not lose. Brother Zoro is the strongest. Your turtle shell will definitely be chopped open by Brother Zoro." Two younger brothers, Joseph and Johnny, immediately yelled and cheered for Zoro. The pirates of the Tulip Pirates were already trembling and guarding the seriously injured Captain Rika, waiting for the duel between the two masters. It wasn't that they didn't want to run, it was just that the looks in Dai Dai's and Zoro's eyes were too scary. Just as they were about to leave, they were enveloped in murderous intent, and they didn't dare to move. The only thing Captain Rika hopes now is that these two bastards will hurt both sides, and he will violently resist again, otherwise he will really be doomed. Although you're not a swordsman, but I will do what I say. Let's see if my sword is sharper or your shield is stronger. Zoro is not a person who thinks too much. He directly picked up the good sword Yukishiro and pulled it out, throwing away a broken sword. This is my strongest move. 9 mountains and 8 seas, without self 3,000 worlds. The secret of 3 sword styles, 3,000 worlds. The two knives in Zoro's hands rotated at high speed like windmills, and strong winds were generated around him. After he chanted, they disappeared instantly, and they could not even see their shadows, and they had already struck Dai Dai's barrier shield. When Zoro appeared, he was breathing heavily, and the ordinary knife in his left hand was instantly broken into more than a dozen pieces. He looked at Dai Duo's transparent shield in disbelief, with a look of unwillingness in his eyes. His strongest move was actually on the opponent's shield without any traces, which made him very uncomfortable. I lost. Zoro took off the Wado Ikemonji in his mouth and sheathed it, and sat directly on the ground a little decadently, and at the same time he had a little doubt about his own strength. If he can't even cut through such a shield, is he really qualified to challenge the world's greatest swordsman? Brother Zoro, the two younger brothers, Joseph and Johnny, immediately ran to Zoro's side and then glared at this Dai Dai. He was just a turtle shell. What's so arrogant about it? Roronoa Zoro, don't forget your dream. Our road to the strongest has just begun. Dai Dai also walked to Zoro, stretched out his hand to him, and said seriously and solemnly. Zoro looked up at this guy. How did he know about dreams? He was really a mysterious guy. Then stay on your ship first. Once I chop up your broken barrier, I will leave. I will not admit a captain who is weaker than me. Zoro put a hand on Dai Dai's hand, was pulled to stand up, looked at Dai Dai seriously, and said, Haha, Zoro, if you lose the bet, you can still get a good and sharp knife, Shuezai. From now on, you'll have to pay for food and shelter for me. You have to have some conscience. Dai Dai laughed and said that he finally got his first crew member. As for the protagonist, Luffy, what's the matter with Dai Dai? A guy with a strong background, protected by a marine hero and a leader of the Revolutionary Army. With great luck, does Dai Dai need to care about him? Zoro's head was full of black lines, but he still held on to the good-looking sword Yukizai in his hand. It seemed that he was not at a loss. In the future, there would be a tool man who knew the way, and the other party also had a sailboat that looked good. Brother Zoro, do you really want to form a group with him? Can you take us with you? Joseph and Johnny immediately shouted, being able to hang out with powerful bosses is the truth. Ask him. He is the captain of that ship. Zoro actually didn't know Joseph and Johnny very well. He just formed a group with them as ordinary friends to hunt pirates. Captain Dai, look, can you take us with you too? Joseph and Johnny suddenly asked Dai coyly. After all, they had just scolded Dai. You are too weak to go to the Grand Line. And in order to become stronger, Zorro and I might even fight Marines. Then we might become wanted criminals. Do you dare to become pirates? Dai said lightly that he did look down on these two guys. They were just fishermen and part-time bounty hunters to make some money. Although he is very loyal, his lack of ability is an undeniable fact. When he goes to Grand Line, he only delivers food. Are you really going to Grand Line, known as the Pirate Graveyard? Do you know how dangerous it is there? Have you heard of the 7 warlords of the sea? Joseph and Johnny said loudly that they were indeed a little afraid of the Grand Line because there were too many powerful pirates there, and they were 2 novices who couldn't even defeat millions of pirates and didn't dare to go to the pirate's grave. Nonsense. Of course I want to go, and I know far more about the Grand Line than you two. Okay, let's take down this pirate group first to exchange for the bounty, and this pirate ship will be given to you too. Dai jumped up and took down the Tulip Pirates pirate flag as his trophy. Captain Rika saw that both the pirate hunter and the stranger were not harmed, but they didn't want to just surrender. Fight! Kill me! Captain Rika covered his wound and shouted loudly, but these pirates did not listen to the captain's words. Some of them immediately jumped into the sea and ran away, while others knelt down and begged for mercy. Most of them don't have bounties on them. Even if they are caught, they will only be imprisoned for a few years at most. There is no need to fight these 2 murderers or be loyal to the captain. It's too late to take action now. Dai went straight to kill him and stabbed 3rd generation on its Suru in a Captain Rika's chest. Anyway, the bounty order for these little pirates is that they can get the bounty regardless of life or death. And Zorro also took the new sword and walked away, cutting these gangsters to the ground. Joseph and Johnny quickly tied up these pirates. After catching all the pirates who jumped into the sea, Dai and Zorro used the food reserves of the Tulip pirates to hold a small banquet on the spot. After Joseph and Johnny's pleading, Dido agreed to them and would temporarily take these 2 rookies to explore in the East Blue Territory. The 2 of them would help out and do some chores in sailing boats. Later, Joseph and Johnny took the pirates of the Tulip pirates to the nearest marine branch to exchange for the bounty and sell the pirate ship on the way. Chapter 9 by G. Claude. A few days later, on a sailboat, 2 figures were constantly fighting fiercely. The sound of swords clashing was heard intensively, sparks flashed, and waves of air flew. Clang. Basic skills. Split Huashan with force. Dai's 3rd generation Kitetsu was raised high and slashed towards Zorro, but Zorro blocked it with Wadu Ikamanji and Yukishiro, which splashed out a dazzling spark. The eyes of the 2 were full of fighting spirit, and neither of them would admit defeat. Brother Dai, Brother Zorro, it's time to eat. We will arrive at Ziliuobu village in the afternoon. Joseph and Johnny came out with the food, and now the 2 of them were responsible for cooking and sailing for the 2 big guys. Dai originally wanted to go straight to the Clown Pirate Station in Orangetown to find Buggy the Clown, but on the chart he saw that the road seemed to pass through Syllabu Village. Then Dai wants to meet Baiji Crow, who is said to have an IQ second only to Ben Beckman. Dai wants to recruit this guy, but if it doesn't work, he will kill him. Let him become a dead soul under the 3rd generation demonic sword, adding a ghostly aura to this demonic sword. Without the ambition to become stronger, it is useless no matter how smart you are. Dai only needs to obey orders and a strong crew. And Zorro is such a pure swordsman. Most of the time, he doesn't care about the reasons and the alignment of good and evil. In his eyes, there is only a choice between cutting or not cutting. Just kill the enemy, no matter if it's a pirate or a marine, and he will unconditionally trust and maintain the captain's dignity. This is the best crew member in Dai's eyes. It's agreed. If the enemy is a swordsman, leave it to me to deal with it, Zorro said as he ate meat and drank a bottle of wine comfortably. These few days were the most comfortable time he had ever had since he was lost at sea. He didn't need to think about anything. He only needed to think about fighting and coming up with new tricks. Just a name. Depend on mood. Dai raised his eyebrows and smiled casually. He would not agree to any absolute conditions, nor would he meet all the crew's requirements. He was not a good person, nor was he a nanny. UBD, Zoro cursed, drank another bottle of wine unhappily, and then went back to continue exercising. One day, he will split open Dai's turtle shell with one knife. Now Zoro regards splitting Dai's protective barrier as a stage goal. In his eyes, if he can't even break this barrier, he is not qualified to challenge the world's greatest swordsman. He will continue to get stronger until he can cut through everything and break through all obstacles in front of him. Dai's basic sword skills have also improved a lot in the past 2 days. Zoro's sword skills are very strong and solid, and there is a lot worth learning. Dai would not give up any opportunity to become stronger, so he sparred with Zoro for 2 days to make up for his loopholes and shortcomings. Dai will also talk to Zoro about the swordsman's training methods and sword intention. He will also briefly talk about the two-color hockey and prepares to take him to practice hard in this direction. As the sailing ship entered the port of Zilyobu village, the villagers on the island also cautiously judged the nature of the ship, whether it was a merchant ship or a pirate ship. However, when I saw that the sailboat was not flying a pirate flag, nor were there those ferocious knife-wielding pirates, I lowered my guard a little. And a brown-skinned boy with a long nose came with a few children to check these outsiders, talking nonsense to his younger brothers and bragging about his power. Dai ignored this guy Usopp. He didn't need kind and cowardly crew members, nor did he need a bad buff like relying on shooters in desperate situations. What he needs is a powerful crew member who can obey orders and charge without hesitation, without asking for a reason. He took Zoro directly onto the island and towards the richest mansion on the island, leaving Joseph and Johnny to watch the boat. Hey, who are you? Where are you going? Do you know that Silop village is my Captain Usopp's territory? Usopp took out a slingshot and said with an inscrutable seriousness, while his 3 younger brothers were waving flags and shouting. Dai and Zoro passed directly over Usopp and continued to move forward, completely ignoring the weakling. Hey, I am Captain Usopp with 8 Senju subordinates. How dare you ignore me like this? Usopp said angrily, but he did not dare to do anything casually. Looking at the direction the two were heading, he felt that the 2 strangers might be looking for Kaya, and he had to go and report the news quickly. And Zoro's glance back made Usopp break out in a cold sweat. His legs trembled, and he couldn't even speak. When he recovered, the 2 strangers had disappeared before his eyes. He gritted his teeth and immediately ran to Kaya's mansion. He felt that these 2 people had bad intentions, like thugs who killed without blinking an eye. After a while, Dai and Zoro arrived at the door of this wealthy family. Dai, if there's an enemy, let me go first. Zoro said calmly that he would continue to defeat his opponents to become stronger and embark on the path of becoming a supreme swordsman. Okay, this crow is very fast. Just pay attention and don't get hurt. I don't have time to treat you. Dai smiled lightly. Just as he finished speaking, a servant with sheep hair and horns opened the door. Hello, what can I do? Melly, who was wearing a suit, said politely and gently, while he was also observing the identities of these 2 strangers. Hey, Sheephead, are you demon fruit power too? But we're not looking for you. Call Crow out. I'm here to defeat his pirate hunter. Zoro was straightforward and straight to the point. He only had eyes for his opponents. According to Dai, Baiji Crow, who had a bounty of 16 million, was hiding in this mansion. Mr. Pirate Hunter, we don't have anyone named Crow here. Are you mistaken? When Mary heard the name of Pirate Hunter, he was not so scared anymore. He was most afraid that the other party would say that they were pirates. However, what does demon fruit power mean? Your butler is the pirate Captain Crow, who should now be known as Crabidle. You must be careful about the safety of your young lady, Dai said calmly. He only realized now that this guy's cotton sheep head didn't seem to be a headdress. Could it be that he was a mixed race of fur tribe? Or a person with sheep fruit abilities? What? Mary was shocked. He had never thought that the kind-faced butler Crabidle could be a pirate. At this time, the butler Crabidle also came out with a cold face and looked at the 2 pirate hunters coldly. The ghost is really lingering. Crow looked at the two strangers with a gloomy expression. 2 years ago, in order to escape the pursuit of marine and pirate hunters, he faked his death and even canceled the reward. Unexpectedly, it was still found out now. Which link is the problem? Could it be that Vice Captain Zhangao betrayed him? Crow, who has a very high IQ, immediately thought of the greatest possibility. Chapter 10. It's up to your father to take this life back. The moment Crow appeared, Zoro's beast instinct immediately realized that the man in front of him was powerful and that he was a good opponent. East Blue's new pirate hunter, known as the monster in human skin, Roronoa Zoro. Crow held up his glasses with his palms and said emotionlessly that although he was hiding, he would still pay attention to various events that happened in East Blue. This is also the importance a smart person attaches to information. After all, he has also considered the situation of being approached. Butler Crabiddle, are you really a pirate? Servant Mary looked nervously at this old acquaintance, the kind housekeeper, whose temperament had changed drastically and instantly turned into a cold and terrifying, cruel pirate. If I kill you all, I will no longer be a pirate. Mr. Mary, I will kill these two pirates to avenge you. The dagger in Crow's hand stabbed Mary instantly, showing no mercy, even though he had been with this gentle servant for 2 years. Ding, hey, killing someone in front of me is not okay. Zoro also instantly drew his sword to block Crow's dagger, saving a frightened Mary. 10 minutes, Zoro, or I'll take over. Dai picked up the frightened Melly and threw him in. Then he found a random place to sit down and quietly watched the two guys fight. Hey, Crow, do you want to call the Black Cat Pirates to help? Why don't you go get your espada out? For Crow, who has a very high IQ and is very arrogant, Dai will defeat him head-on and give him enough face. If he can't be subdued, he will let him see what cruelty is. Are you looking down on me? Or do you overestimate you? Crow's eyes have completely turned cold. His bounty was already 16 million 2 years ago. If he had not faked his death to escape, he would definitely be higher than Krieg, who is known as the East Blue Overlord. That guy's bounty is only 17 million now. Gold. And what qualifications did the two fledgling pirate hunters in front of him have to be his opponents? Then make a bet. If you lose, join us. If we lose, we will give you our lives. Dai chuckled and looked at Baiji Crow provocatively, with endless contempt in his eyes. Oomph, vulgar provocation. You young brat. Crow didn't take the two of them seriously at all. He wanted to kill these two pirate hunters quickly, then deal with Mary and resume the original plan. He quickly stabbed the pirate hunter Zoro, but in just a dozen moves, he found that without the weapon espada, he couldn't suppress the green-haired kid at all. Crow fainted, then turned into an afterimage and disappeared at the door. He quickly returned to his room, got his espada cat claw, and at the same time dialed Django's phone number, asking him to come to Ziliuobu village immediately. Even if he suspected that Zhangao had leaked information, he still had to confirm it again. If he found out that Zhangao had really betrayed him, he would definitely kill him. Zoro, who had just gotten excited from the fight, chased him into the mansion cursing, but as soon as he entered the door, he was already lost and ran in the other direction. This scene made Dai's eyelids jump when he saw it, and Zoro, the road idiot, was so terrifying. However, don't blame me for taking action. On the other side, the servant Melly found the eldest lady Kaya in a panic and told her all the facts. And Usopp also climbed up outside the window, just in time to hear the news that Crabiddle's housekeeper was a pirate. Kaya, let's run quickly. Get out of the limelight first. Usopp nervously jumped into Kaya's room and quickly persuaded the sickly young lady to escape. The battle between pirates and bounty hunters was too scary. Kaya did not refuse the persuasion of her servant Melly and her friend Usopp to leave here first. She also did not expect that the housekeeper Crabiddle, who cared for her meticulously, would be a pirate. But she still wanted to confirm with Butler Crabiddle in person. Why did he deceive her? As soon as they ran out of Kaya's room and walked to the hall, they met that familiar figure. But the housekeeper who thought he was gentle has turned into a devil with a cold face. I didn't expect that you guys would find out. It's really annoying. Captain Crow, who had espada cat claws on his hands, held up his glasses with his palms, and said in a sinister tone. His appearance made Usopp and Melly tremble in fear, but Kaya, who was frail and sick, stood up. Why? Crabiter, is it possible that all your care and love in the past 2 years were just a show? Kaya said with a pale face. She has always trusted this housekeeper. Miss, this brat Melly and Usopp have colluded with pirates. After I deal with these people, I will explain it to you. Crow smiled lightly and said that he was going to kill everyone and asked Hypnosis Kaya to make a will in advance and let him inherit all Kaya's property. Even if some villagers would be suspicious, he had to implement the plan. Originally, he wanted to make Kaya's health worse so that he could inherit the family property naturally. He assassinated Kaya's parents 2 years ago. After Kaya fell ill, he added something to her medicine, which made Kaya even weaker and required long-term medication. You pirate, get out of my way quickly. I am Captain Usopp, who has 8 Senju. Feeling Crow's cold, murderous aura. Even if Usopp was extremely frightened, he would stand in front of Kaya tremblingly to protect this beloved eldest lady. Oh, waste. Crow stopped talking nonsense. Espada Cat claws showed cold light and instantly rushed towards Usopp, who was blocking the front. He wanted to kill both this liar and Mary, and he must continue to complete his plan. Don't want. Kaya cried in fear and closed her eyes, while Usopp and Mary were so scared that they couldn't move. Clang. Usopp, remember, you owe me a life, and let your father Yasopp pay it back in the future. A transparent shield barrier suddenly appeared in front of the 3 Usopps. Dai walked in slowly, while Crow was knocked away by his own huge counterattack. It's you, X2. Mary and Usopp said in unison. Both of them had seen Dai, but they didn't expect this stranger to save them. Demon fruit power. Crow narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the bounty hunter solemnly. He didn't expect that the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro was already so strong, but this guy seemed to be even stronger. In a small place like East Blue, there are not many demon fruit powers. In his information, they only know Buggy the Clown and Smoker the White Hunter. CLO, the bet is still valid. Either be killed or join. Let me see your strength and ambition. Dai slowly pulled out the 3rd generation Ki Tetsu, and the atmosphere on the field suddenly became strangely cold. Everyone seemed to feel the ominous aura of this demonic sword. Chapter 11, Conquering Crow Baiji. Crow admitted that he underestimated this bounty hunter. This guy not only had devil fruit abilities, but also had a weird demon knife. But, as a pirate captain, how could he join the ranks of pirate hunters? Then I choose to kill you. Crow sneered and said, what does it mean for this guy to protect these weaklings? This guy seems to have some of Marine's righteous qualities, which can be used. See how many people you can protect. Espada die. Crow immediately used his strongest move. Under the silent step of moving at high speed, he used the Espada Cat claw in his hand to carry out indiscriminate attacks. The speed was so fast that even Crow didn't know what he would hit. You can't even control a move. With your IQ, you can only come up with this move. Barrier Ball. Dai crossed the index and middle fingers of his left hand, and a huge spherical barrier ball suddenly enveloped Crow, who was slashing randomly, allowing him to drift and slash inside the barrier ball for his own entertainment. He is already a little doubtful. Is this Baiji Crow, who the old thief Oda said has an IQ second only to Ben Beckman, really that smart? Now he looks like a not-so-smart Yazzie. Don't stop yet. If that's all you can do, then so be it. Barrier Ball, kill, and bury. Dai stretched out his left hand and held it in the air. The huge barrier ball, which was more than 10 meters tall, wrapped around Crow, who was running around. It shrank at an extremely fast speed and suddenly squeezed Crow, who was slashing indiscriminately, into a body of less than 2 feet. Meters inside the barrier ball. Crow, who is 2 meters tall, cannot even stand upright inside the barrier ball. His Espada Cat claws cannot be opened. He can only cross his chest and press against both sides of the barrier ball. He uses all his strength to stop the barrier ball. Shrink. Have you finally stopped? Do you want to die or live? Dai stood in front of the barrier ball that continued to shrink, looking at Baiji Crow indifferently. The Espada cat's claws also began to bend under the strong contraction pressure. If this continues, Crow will kill people with his sword and be squeezed into a ball of flesh. Mr. Bounty Hunter, please don't kill Butler Crabbiddle. Give him to Marine. Then you can still get the bounty. Kaya suddenly ran up. She was kind-hearted and didn't want to see the housekeeper she had been with for 2 years die in front of her. You go away. Dai glanced at this weak little bean sprout with ruthless eyes. He was too weak and useless. Mary and Usopp immediately pulled Kaya back and looked at the brutal bounty hunter in fear. Chloe, I don't have that much patience. I thought you were a smart person, but you disappointed me so much. Barrier magic, one sword pierces the heart. There was a gap in the shrinking barrier ball. Dai aimed the third-generation ghost at the gap and stabbed it in with a knife, completely ending the life of Baiji Crow and letting the demon knife drink a full meal of blood. Wait! Crow saw that the demon's sword had been pressed against his heart, and he could no longer be arrogant at this moment. But Dai didn't seem to hear it and continued to push in slowly, giving Crow enough mental and visual pressure. Crow, who still wanted to negotiate some conditions, immediately shouted, Wait, I want to live. My captain. Crow was sweating profusely and said that this bounty hunter was more ruthless than him and his grasp of people's hearts was no worse than his. You know the consequences of betrayal. Dai showed a kind smile and looked deeply into his eyes. When he saw Crow's cold sweat breaking out, his scalp was numb. However, Crow quickly adjusted and showed a nervous smile. Don't underestimate the pirate's promise, my devil captain. You have released another devil. Crow's eyes were crazy, as if he saw a guy who was smarter, more powerful, and more cold-blooded than him. I hope your brain and strength can meet my expectations. Otherwise, you will really die. Dai smiled and casually dispersed the shrinking barrier ball, picked up the sweating Crow, and patted his collar. Dai, who is currently 226 centimeters tall, is still quite tall in East Blue. Clue is only 207 centimeters, and Zoro is even shorter now, only 178 centimeters. In front of Dai, he is a dwarf. I hope the captain's strength can always crush me, otherwise you will die too. Crow looked at Dai without fear, as if he had found his ambition again. Bang! Dai punched Crow in the stomach, causing Crow to immediately fall to the ground holding his stomach, with blood flowing from his mouth. That's a nice look. You are qualified to be my crew member, so work hard. However, you still have to respect the captain and never do it again. Dai picked up Crow again. Usopp and Kaya were stunned when they saw this scene. Is this recruiting a crew? Why are you so cruel? Are you really not afraid of betrayal by the crew? Really a demon captain, but I like it. Crow wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his tone was indeed more respectful, as if he had really surrendered to Dai. And Usopp's eyes became weird. Butler Crabbiddle seemed to have a strong masochistic tendency. The more he was beaten, the more respectful he became. Keep up with the pace, broaden your horizons, don't waste time staring at these rich villagers. I am ashamed of you, Dai said in a disgusted tone, and Crow did not refute, but something did change in his eyes. Maybe he was insulted, maybe he was awakened. This scene made Usopp even more convinced that Crow was a pirate with masochistic tendencies and seemed to have developed a serious disease called Stockholm Syndrome. Crow followed Dai expressionlessly out of the mansion. His thoughts were a bit complicated. He stared at Dai's back. He was impressed by Dai's strength, but also wanted to take his place and take revenge. But rationally, he couldn't beat this guy, and he had already joined this guy's men. He didn't bother to do such a thing as betrayal, unless he can defeat this captain head-on. Don't ever let me surpass you. Devil Captain. Crow showed a cruel smile. This bounty hunter really woke him up. With his cleverness, the pattern of planning the village rich was indeed too low. Maybe you should follow this guy to the Grand Line to make a living. Finally gone. Usopp suddenly fell to the ground. The pressure from these two guys was really terrifying. Usopp, you were brave just now. Kaya helped Usopp up and said gently. She looked at the two figures again, and she seemed to see the appearance of two big figures. On the other side, this guy Zoro somehow broke out of Kaya's mansion and came to the coast, which made him extremely crazy. What about the enemy Crow? At this time, a black cat-headed pirate ship appeared on the sea, and the pirate flag on it was also a cat-shaped skull. We encountered another pirate ship. Forget it. Ignore Crow. Let's capture them first. Zoro looked at the black cat pirate ship getting closer and closer with bright eyes. He began to hold the Ryokai, sword Yukigashiro, and the great katana Wado Ikemonji in his hands, excitedly waiting for the prey to approach. Chapter 12 Black Cat Pirates. Zhang Ao was originally the vice captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Now he's become the captain of the Black Cat Pirates according to Captain Crow's plan, but he still has to obey Captain Crow's orders. Captain Zhang Ao, Captain Crow has been in this village for so long, and his strength must have become weaker. Why don't we get rid of him? Madara Cat Buchi sneered. Now that Crow has disappeared for 2 years, the previous fear has faded, and during this time, the strength of their cat brothers has increased. As for Crow, who has been hiding for 2 years, his strength may have declined a lot. Otherwise, they would not be summoned with such urgency now. Have you forgotten how cruel Captain Crow is? He is a demon who can easily kill a warship marine. Zhang Ao said with lingering fear that even after 2 years, he still had fresh memories. Even a marine Monka was his own hypnosis. Captain Zhang Ao, now we think you are the captain. The Siamese cat Sam also screamed that Django could also perform hypnosis on them, and Crow, a cold-blooded and ruthless demon, could kill even the crew members in minutes. There's really no sense of security at all in Crow's hands. Let's go and see Captain Crow's strength first. Under Zhang Ao's heart-shaped glasses, there was also a flash of ambition, but he was more cautious, and he did not dare to offend the madman Crow. Let's test whether Captain Crow has become weaker now. Huamadara Cat Buchi had a sinister look on his face. Crow had left a lot of shadows in their hearts back then. Today they were going to see how much more capable this captain was. The Black Cat Pirates Beige Braku slowly approached the shore of Silab Village, and they immediately landed to meet Captain Crow. But not long after they got off the boat, they were blocked by a swordsman with short green hair. The two sides immediately started fighting. Zoro, who owned 2 famous knives, quickly chopped down the Siamese cat Sam without giving the opponent a chance, while the colorful Madara cat, Butchi, carried Zoro's tiger hunting because of his fat body. Strong attack. Under Django's hypnosis spell, Madara cat Buchi entered a violent state and was able to fight Zoro dozens of times. At this time, Dai Dai appeared at the front of the battle with Crow, watching the battle between Madara Cat Buji and Zoro with an expressionless face. Seeing Dai Di and the other two appearing, Zoro immediately became serious and quickly chopped off the fat cat with a knife. Captain Crow. Zhang Ao looked at the former captain respectfully, while the Siamese cat Sam and the Madara cat Buthi, who had regained consciousness, also looked at the captain in fear. If they hadn't been injured by Zoro, they might have tried to test Captain Crow's strength, but they were all injured now. Same trash as always, Crow said with a cold face, saying that he was about to put on the Espada cat claw to clean the door. After all, he's also a tool man with a bounty on his head, so he can charge to death, Dai said lightly, and Crow put down Espada and looked at the 2 younger brothers indifferently. 2 years have passed. The bounty for the Catman brothers is 7 million Baileys, or the bounty for the 2 of them together. Captain Crow. Zhang Ao looked at him in disbelief that this arrogant Crow would actually obey the orders of a young man. I'm not the captain from now on. Dai is the captain. Crow stood behind Dai, held up his glasses with his palms, and said coldly. At the same time, he guessed what Dai meant. How could he even like this kind of trash? With a few more people, we can search for things and die. Dai said calmly. It doesn't matter how many of these minions die. Up to you. Kuluo had no right to interfere with Dai's decision, as he was just a younger brother now. Dai, what does this mean? Can even these pirates board the ship? Zoro said unhappily. These are just prey, pirates who can be exchanged for money. How can they become crew members? They are just subordinates, not crew members. Dai looked at Zhang Ao and the others. Their strength was far from up to standard, and Dai didn't take a fancy to these guys either. Surrender or die. Dai walked up to Zhang Ao and the other guys and spoke, but his eyes were aimed at their necks. As long as they refused, they would immediately become the dead souls of third-generation ghosts. "We surrender, Captain." The three of them glanced at Crow and immediately surrendered to this new demon captain who could subdue Crow. "I just need people who obey me." Dai's faint words made the three of them feel cold, and they nodded like chickens pecking at rice. And Crow jumped on the pirate ship, personally chopped the Black Cat Pirates' pirate flag into pieces, and personally destroyed the pirate group he founded. Dai, where are you going next?" Zoro was not happy with the fight and said to Dai he didn't understand the use of these pirates. Just hack them to death. Fight 2 more pirate groups, and then attack the Krieg pirate group, the overlord of East Blue. Dai had already wanted to kill East Blue and recruit some of East Blue's top crew members. Although they were rubbish to Grand Line and New World, Dai could only get these men. That's right. Then go kill the East Blue overlord. There was no word of fear in Zoro's eyes, and a cold light flashed in Crow's glasses. "Let's use the blood of the East Blue overlord to sacrifice his banner for coming out again." And Zhang Ao and others were scared to death. The Krieg pirates were a large pirate group with 50 pirate ships and more than 5,000 people. Their total number was less than 100 people. How could they fight? On the sea, numbers are not an advantage. Dai smiled. He wanted to test the limit of his strength. The Krieg pirates, with a large number of people and no masters, was a good place to kill monsters. It's also a great place to feed third-generation Kitetsu. Dai wasted no time and immediately left Ziliuobu village and went towards the Krieg pirates. But Usopp looked at the pirate group leaving and finally did not have the courage to go to sea. So he silently returned to the mansion to take care of Kaya. During the sea voyage, Dai does not have the ability to use the barrier fruit and is constantly fighting Zoro and Crow, trying to suppress them with physical and sword skills. When the pirates of the original Black Cat Pirates heard that the new captain, a madman, was going to attack the Krieg pirates, the overlord of the East Blue, they were all terrified and wanted to escape from the ship and leave this madman. But there is only one result of escaping, which is to become the ghost of third-generation Kitetsu. Sure enough, no matter how many subordinates you have, they are not as good as one master. Mihawk, one person can easily kill 5,000 Krieg pirates, as easy as crushing ants. Straw Hat Luffy's Conqueror's Haki can stun tens of thousands of Murlocs on the Fishman Island at once, which is really a weapon for clearing troops. Dai couldn't stand the pirates who kept running away and almost slaughtered them all with a sacrificial knife. In the end, he endured the murderous intention and gave his small sailboat to Joseph and Johnny, asking them to take these pirates to the Marine branch in exchange for the bounty, and not to continue to follow Dai and Zoro, because the next battle is not suitable for these 2 weak bounty hunters with good intentions. Chapter 13, Target Krieg, facing Dai, who suddenly drove people away. Joseph and Johnny looked at Zoro pitifully. Zoro also felt that these 2 guys were too weak and not suitable for the style of the ship, so he also asked them to get off the ship. The 2 could only drive Dai's small sailboat away from the 2 big guys. "You're still too kind. Captain Dai." Baiji Kelluo watched Dai's operation indifferently. In his eyes, Dai should kill all these minions to prevent these ants from exposing their information so quickly. "This is my kindness to Zoro. It will never happen again." Dai smiled meaningfully, pulled out the third-generation Onitsuru, and whittled the black cat head of the Baiji Braku into an ordinary horn. Dai doesn't need these messy animal bows, and this pirate ship is just a transitional ship. Joseph and Johnny are just ordinary friends, but they are indeed too weak. Zoro was taking care of his beloved knife. After Joseph and Johnny got off the boat, he became more pure in his heart and could only kill people and become stronger. The battles in the future will become more and more cruel. Are you ready to have a firm and cold heart? Dai looked at Zoro and Crow. He was becoming more and more determined. Not even desire could affect him. "I won't die until I become the world's greatest swordsman." Zoro stopped wiping the knife, remembering his promise to the girl, and felt extremely determined. "Since you will be found no matter what, then become a terrifying demon again. Crow held up his glasses with his palms and continued to read the newspaper. The passion for fighting rekindled in his eyes. While the Siamese cat Sam is at the helm, the flower Madara cat Buchi is constantly adjusting the sails, and Zhang Yao has become a chef, cooking for several people. After Dai Dai drove away Joseph, Johnny, and those pirate minions, the three cadres of the Black Cat Pirates became the lowest-level trainees, carefully serving the three bosses. And now they have to attack the East Blue Overlord Krieg Pirates. If they had known this, they might as well have been taken to the Marine branch and imprisoned. At least you can save your life by going to jail, but now 6 people going to attack the Krieg Pirates is no different from death. 2 more days passed. Dai Dai and the others finally encountered the pirate fleet of the Krieg Pirates cruising around the periphery. There were 3 pirate ships in total, and they would plunder all the ships they saw. 3 pirate ships, 1 for each person. Zoro immediately shouted excitedly. In the past few days of discussions, he initially recognized Crow's strength and reluctantly regarded him as a crew member. The 3 pirate ships on the opposite side also immediately launched a bombardment with excitement on their faces. In East Blue, which pirate group can compete with them? The Krieg Pirates? Zoro and Crow continued to block the intensive artillery fire from the opposite side. The Baiji Braku had stopped, waiting for the 3 pirate ships to attack on their own. Go! Barrier stairs. Seeing the 3 pirate ships approaching, Dai Dai crossed his hands, and 3 transparent stairs appeared, directly connecting to the 3 pirate ships. Without saying a word, he rushed towards a pirate ship and attacked. Zoro and Crow were not far behind and followed the barrier stairs to kill them. In an instant, blood flew everywhere, screams continued, and the 3 of them were trembling. As soon as Crow got up, he launched the indiscriminate ultimate move Dai to death. Almost 100 of the Krieg Pirates' minions were not enough to kill him in 2 minutes. Dai Dai's eyes were flashing red, and the demon sword in his hand, 3rd generation Kitetsu, was constantly harvesting the lives of these pirate minions, and it became more and more weird. Moreover, Dai Dai wrapped a little of his own armament haki around it, constantly cultivating this good and sharp knife that already had some dark lines. Zoro was the last one to complete the mission, and at least more than half of his men were still alive, but had been chopped. The pirates on the 2 pirate ships, Dai Dai and Crow, were all slaughtered, and not a single one was killed. Leftover. Hey, go up and move things. Dai Dai shouted to the 3 of Zhang Yao with a murderous look on his face. After killing the enemy, of course he must loot everything and take all the loot. Yes, Captain Dai Dai. The 3 of them immediately worked hard and quickly completed the task ordered by Dai Dai. These 3 killing gods were so terrifying that they did not dare to delay in any way. There is no real opponent, not even a wanted criminal. Zoro was still a little regretful after finishing killing people, but he felt very happy today, which was much more comfortable than chasing down the pirate group alone. The people who killed Krieg will come to seek revenge soon. Are you ready for war? Dai Dai smiled with satisfaction. The demonic aura and black lines of his 3rd generation ghost became a little stronger. Can't wait. Crow was covered in blood. Like a demon, he killed indiscriminately, unlike Dai Dai and Zoro, who avoided the splatter blood. You have too many loopholes in this trick. You need to improve it, Dai Dai said to Crow. His silent step and the speed of dipping are comparable to the shaving in Marine 6 styles, but he can't control who he will chop, which is a bit useless. I know. Crow also knows his shortcomings, so he has been slowly improving the silent step and is also practicing observation haki. With this power in the future, he may be able to improve his control and accuracy. It was through Dai Dai that Crow and Zoro first came into contact with the concept of haki and the cultivation method of awakening. After Zhang Yao and the others moved the supplies and treasures, Dai Dai set fire to the 3 Krieg Pirates' pirate ships and left, continuing to hunt the Krieg Pirates' fleet. Even if they have 50 pirate ships and 5,000 people, Dai Dai will wipe them out bit by bit. Aboard the Baiji Braku. These pirates also have phone bugs. Dai Dai looked at the 3 plundered phone bugs, but it was normal to think about it. Even the Bateau family and other mafia families had a batch of phone bugs for communication. As the overlord of the East Blue, it has grown even bigger than the Bateau family, so it should have its own tricks. Thinking of the various weapons on Krieg's body, such as steel armor, diamond gloves, stinger armor, gas bombs, battle guns, this guy probably has a lot of weapons deals with the underworld. After all, the 6 underground Dark Emperor's businesses are spread all over the world, especially Doflamingo's weapons, which can be found all over the world. This East Blue overlord should be able to become one of the underground Emperor's clients. After all, no one would dislike a poor customer, as long as they have money to pay the bill. Dai ignored the ringing phone bug, blocked it, and then took out the chart. Next, they planned to fight a guerrilla war and clean up part of the Krieg pirate ship. If Dai had Conqueror's hockey, he would have gone in long ago and wouldn't have to worry about Krieg's crowd tactics. Chapter 14 Initial Fame. In 1 week, 4 cruise fleets of the Krieg pirate group had been eliminated by Dai and the others. This news made Krieg furious. Krieg felt that his status as the dominant player in East Blue was seriously challenged. After losing 15 pirate ships and more than 1,500 people, the Krieg pirates found out the identity of the attackers, and this information soon made the headlines in East Blue. This makes Krieg lose face. It turns out that the overlord of East Blue is just a paper tiger, and he was defeated by just a few people. Big Daddy Babaya, pirate hunter Reno Azuro, Baiji Crow, you are dead. Admiral Krieg looked at the newspaper and roared. Why are a traitor of the underworld Bateau family, a bounty hunter, and a pirate who has been dead for 2 years mixed together? Ajin, Balu, gather all the troops for me to encircle and suppress them. Krieg's eyes were red, and he roared at his 2 capable men. Originally, he had planned to develop for another year and a half before launching an attack on the Grand Line. Unexpectedly, in East Blue, he was destroyed by a few guys for nearly 3 points. One of the teams. If I don't take revenge for this, I swear I won't be a human being. The big move of the Krieg pirate group, the overlord of the East Blue, also alarmed many pirate groups, and some of the weaker pirate groups have already gone into hiding. East Blue Logtown, the boss of the Bartle family, the ogre Bartolomeo, looked at the newspaper and saw the news about Big Daddy Babaya. He immediately tore up the newspaper and shouted that he would go to sea to hunt down Babaya. However, he was quickly suppressed by Yubaba, who forbade him from causing trouble with Babaya. After all, if the Krieg pirates can kill Babaya, there will be no use for Bartolomeo. But if Babaya destroys the Krieg pirates, Bader will only deliver food when he goes there, so it would be wiser to sit back and watch the fight. Dazaya, on the other hand, looked at the news in the newspaper with complicated eyes, with strong worry in his eyes. She ran back to her place. Bateau, watch Dazaya. Don't let her go to sea to find Babaya. Yubaba hit Bartolomeo on the head with a big bump and said sternly, Got it, Grandma. Bartolomeo was like a kitten standing in front of Granny U with fear. It was so painful to hit her with Granny's crutch. Logtown Marine Branch. A white-haired Marine, chewing a cigar, also glanced at the news in the newspaper and was surprised. 6 for 5,000? Are all newcomers so fierce these days? Daddy Babaya, I remember your name. Come back to Logtown if you want. Lousy will definitely arrest you personally for daring to hang out with some pirates. Smoker immediately applied to the naval headquarters to reinstate Baiji Crow's wanted order, and at the same time thoroughly investigated Colonel Monka of the Marine 153 branch and brought justice to the Marine back then. As for the gang member Big Daddy Babaya and the pirate hunter Zorro, they still need to be observed, but in Smoker's eyes, these 2 guys will be wanted sooner or later. Because they were so cruel, they actually killed thousands of pirates. With such murderousness, Smoker didn't believe that they would be good people. East Blue, Orangetown. Buggy the Clown saw that a ruthless man was born in East Blue, and he couldn't help but have the idea of hiding from the limelight. After all, his clown pirates only had more than 100 people, and he didn't dare to offend the Krieg pirates, who were so numerous. East Blue, Cocoa West Village. The evil dragon looked at the news with contempt. Krieg, the overlord of East Blue? In his eyes, they're just a bunch of trash. Even if their dragon pirates only had less than 100 people, he was still confident of capturing the Krieg pirates' 5,000 people. The strength of their murlocs is 10 times that of humans, and they can fight one against 10 or even one against 100. And on the sea, they murlocs are the protagonists. If he hadn't been worried that a war with the Krieg pirates would cause casualties to some of the Fishmen brothers, how could he have let Krieg, a loser, take away the title of East Blue Overlord based on his numbers? You must know that he is the big pirate with the highest bounty in East Blue, and an orange-haired girl in the Dragon Pirates was also shocked by the news. How could 6 people defeat 5,000 people? But she has no time to care about these things. She still has to go to sea to make money. But the next moment, a bold idea was born in her mind. Now the Krieg Pirates, the overlord of East Blue, is in chaos and is looking for people everywhere. Do you have more opportunities to steal the Krieg Pirates' treasures? Maybe you can steal the money to redeem the village in one go. Nami was so excited that she immediately began to think about the feasibility of the plan. On the other side, a pirate ship, Django and the Catman brothers were already trembling, as if they were about to be torn apart by the Krieg Pirates at any moment. Dai and Zoro still went their own way, eating what they should eat and practicing what they should practice. As for Crow, he frowned and looked at his photo in the newspaper. Still exposed. Zoro, you are still not cruel enough to let so many pirates go. Crow held up his glasses with his palms and said indifferently, but his tone did not mean to blame. After all, he had foreseen all possibilities. He just felt that if Zoro had too much kindness in his heart, he might be more likely to suffer losses in the future. But the devil Dai was different. What Crow saw in Dai's eyes was pure indifference, as if the lives of these pirates were even more humble than insects. He could feel that Dai Duo regarded killing pirates as a game. Crow could even feel subtly that Dai was out of tune with this world. There's a feeling of looking down at the world with pride and contempt, a bit like he is looking down and playing with a nest of ants. He didn't know why Dai had such a look with his little strength. If he had the strength of 7 warlords of the sea and 4 emperors, then Crow would have nothing to say. But now, this look is still too early. Could this guy be a celestial dragon's? Crow shook his head and threw away this idea. It seemed to be Dai's own problem. However, he quite admired Dai's cold and ruthless character. After all, feelings can only affect a person's thinking and speed of drawing a sword. Too weak. I can't even arouse the interest in killing people. Zoro doesn't want to admit his kindness. He is just too lazy to swing his sword at the weak. He would rather swing his sword at the stronger. Next, let's see your limits. Don't fall down so quickly. Dai is still eating meat. He yearns for the kind of heroic physique that can fight for 10 days and 10 nights. Even if he can't train to that level, he still wants to set out for 5 days and 5 nights, 3 days and 3 nights. I can go without food for 10 days and 10 nights and still be able to kill people. It's hard to say that Clue has a bamboo body like that. Zoro challenged Crow that he could be called a swordsman like Warcraft because he could chase the pirates for days and nights without giving up, and his physical strength was terrifying. In the original work, he was also tied up for 9 days without eating or drinking and was exposed to the scorching sun. After Luffy rescued him, he still had strong fighting power. Chapter 15 Sonic Fruit Power User and Liang Kwai Dao Huazhou Crow had no interest in arguing with Zoro, a man whose brain was half composed of muscles. He planned to follow the speed style and one-hit kill style, which focused on speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, and no mercy. He would definitely not have the passion for fighting with sympathy. However, he still has the physical strength to fight for a day. If he wants to continue fighting for several days, he really can't do it now. Dai, do you really want to launch an attack on the Krieg Pirates? We can now play with them again and erode their power bit by bit. Crow had many ways to cripple the Krieg Pirates in his mind, but Dai suddenly lost his mind and actually wanted to have a head-to-head battle, which made him a little confused. Reason told him that this was the most brainless choice. CLO, the worst era has come. For Emperor's Whitebeard has only a few years to live. We need to grow up quickly. Living toward death is the fastest way to grow. Dai grinned, knowing that his strength still wasn't growing fast enough. How can he grow if he plays with these ants all day long and can't even push himself to his limit? I thought you'd become reckless, but it turns out you're still the same devil. Kuluo immediately understood what Dai Dai meant and immediately abandoned all the plans in his mind. Those weaklings killed this week are indeed not interesting. Then let's fight vigorously again and again, and with the protection of thousands of people, kill Krieg, the overlord of East Blue. Krieg is worth 17 million Baileys, and Ajin is the ghost man who is worth 12 million. This ghost man has a good eye. He must be my opponent. Zoro looked at the wanted poster of Ghost Mannequin, with that beast-like look in his eyes that made him feel a little warm. He could feel that this was a good opponent. This guy's strength should be almost the same as Krieg, maybe even stronger than Krieg. This is Zoro's own intuition. Let's cut through these pirates first. Crow said calmly. He was a pirate with a bounty of 16 million 2 years ago, but he didn't expect that he couldn't even get a decent opponent now. The captain of the second unit of the Krieg pirates, Balu, has such a low bounty and is not worthy of being his opponent. Crow is not afraid, even if he faces East Blue Overlord Krieg. The 16 million he paid 2 years ago is compared to the 17 million this year. He already has many ideas in his mind to kill Krieg. Captain Dai Dai, there is a pirate ship in front. It seems like 2 pirate ships are fighting. Madara Cat Buji, who was adjusting the sail and also serving as a lookout, shouted loudly that he was not afraid this time. After all, there were only 2 pirate ships on the opposite side. These fierce men on the ship were not afraid of the 2 pirate groups at all. But if he encountered dozens of pirate ships, he might be a little scared. Then go up and kill them. Zoro's eyes lit up, and he immediately ran to the bow of the ship to see what was on the other side. There is a ship that seems a bit familiar to me. I think I've seen it before. Zoro frowned and thought for a moment, eyes widened, and finally remembered. Zoro remembered that a guy came to recruit him before, but he beat him away. That style of ship and flag seems to be something called Baroque works. Before, IBD named Mr. 7 came to recruit me. I said I wanted to be their boss, but they got angry and attacked me, so I had to cut them down. Turn them over. Zoro continued. He looked at the fighting over there. Now that he couldn't recruit anyone, they started fighting. The other pirate group should be the Edrago Pirates, Captain Dai Dai. That guy is also a demon fruit power. Are you interested in taking him down? Crow's glasses lit up. Since he, the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, had been defeated, there was no reason why those guys couldn't be beaten. So soon you met someone for Baroque works? Dai Dai put down his 1-ton dumbbell and stepped forward. Looking at the sonic laser cannon fired from the opposite side, his eyes suddenly lit up. Then what are you waiting for? Kill him. Dai Dai thought he had met Admiral Kizaru, but it was impossible to think about it because there was a pirate ship on the opposite side. Yes, Captain Dai Dai. The Catman brother immediately shouted, pulled up the sail and turned the rudder, started rowing, and sailed past at high speed. The other side, the captain of the Edrago Pirates, Edrago, possesses the Paramecia Sonic Fruit ability, has a bounty of 16.6 million Baileys, has a grumpy personality, loves gold, and likes to explore and plunder. Today he was heading towards a treasure map, but unexpectedly he was stopped by a gangster merchant ship. The person on the other side claimed that he was a member of the Grand Line's Baroque works and wanted to recruit them. Ed Drago refused without saying a word. He was a good captain now. How could he be someone else's younger brother? If he hadn't been afraid of the opponent's strength in the Grand Line, he would have wanted to rob the opponent's ship on the spot. As a result, the other party was shameless and threatened him with the name of being the most powerful criminal organization in the Grand Line and wanted to take him back to the Grand Line. The irritable Ed Drago couldn't help it anymore and started fighting with them directly, going to the most powerful criminal organization. Lousy had never heard of it. Then the 2 sides started fighting. Unexpectedly, the guy on the opposite side also had 2 brushes jumping around like fleas. This swordsman, named Mr. 11, is several times stronger than his swordsman Gorith. He is worthy of being someone who has been in the Grand Line. Captain Edrag, someone is coming again. Even though the 2 sides are at war, there are still boys who are observing the situation on the sea, fearing that it is the opponent's support force or the Marine that suddenly comes over. Maid, you bastards will die to Lousy. With blue light coming from his mouth, Edrag shot out the mast of the opponent's gangster merchant ship. "Brother Edra, you'd better not enter the Grand Line, otherwise you will definitely die." Mr. 11 had no choice but to retreat when he saw something was wrong. These country pirates had no idea how powerful the most powerful criminal organization was. They were really a bunch of ignorant bumpkins. "Then Lousy will kill you all." Ed Drago became even more angry. During the years he had been working in East Blue, how could anyone dare to threaten him like this? Maybe on the Grand Line, the name of Baroque Works is very famous, but in East Blue, no one takes him seriously, be it ignorance or arrogance. The violent Ed Drago scared MR-11 and ran away on his ship. This stupid young man was a bit scary, but the next moment, he saw a sailboat appearing behind him, and a green algae head jumped up on the opposite side, suddenly looking at him with bright eyes. The famous Sword Huajo, one of the 50 good swordsmen. As soon as Zorro jumped onto the opposite boat, he saw the long knife in Mr. 11's hand. It was a unique Jiaki knife with flame-like patterns on the blade. "I just need a sword. I want this Huajo. Let's fight, swordsman." Zorro grinned at Mr. 11 and said that he had been looking for a good knife for a long time. He even had the idea of Dai Duo's third-generation ghost knife. Chapter 16, going into the sea to experience the feeling of death facing the sudden interferer. Edrago, who had already fallen into a state of rage, chose to kill him. Sonic Cannon, a blue-white laser beam shot straight towards the sailboat. In Edrag's fighting style, directly destroying the pirate ship on the opposite side was the best attack. Guard the barrier. A huge transparent barrier appeared, instantly blocking the unstoppable laser beam. This scene made Edrago's eyes widen. How could anyone block his sonic laser cannon? "If you dare to attack me first, are you prepared to die?" A barrier ladder appeared. Dai crossed his hands. The solid barrier firmly blocked Edrag's laser beam. He walked towards Edrag step by step. "Strike the barrier." Dai pushed forward with both hands, and the transparent barrier faced the laser sound waves at an unstoppable impact speed, slamming into Ed Drago. Brother Adelaide, who had never encountered such a frontal counterattack, was confused at this moment and had no idea how to fight back. Before he could dodge, he was knocked straight away. His mouth and nose were instantly knocked crooked by the barrier, and 2 puffs of blood spurted out. The huge transparent barrier pushed Edrago and crashed into the upper cabin of the pirate ship. The entire pirate ship seemed to be split in the middle and penetrated directly. And Edrago was still hit by this powerful impact force, blasted from the bow to the stern, and was directly blasted into the sea with the ruins of the cabin. This terrifying power made even Crow and Zorro a little dumbfounded, and Mr. 11's eyes widened, and his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Is this the power that East Blue should have? "Captain Edrag!" The crew members of the Edrago pirates all screamed in panic. Their invincible captain was actually killed by someone else. Edrago's deputy, the swordsman Gorath, immediately jumped into the sea to salvage his captain, because he knew that demon fruit power would be like a landlubber once it entered the sea, unable to exert any strength at all. If no one saves him, he will definitely drown unless he is a fishman. Dai, you have become stronger again. But do you want to kill Brother Edrag? Crow also boarded Adelaide's pirate ship. He was so scared that the pirates across from him were trembling. He looked at the pirate ship that had been penetrated with a huge gap and saw Adelaide being blasted into it. See, didn't he say that he wanted to conquer this sonic fruit user? Why did he strike so harshly? He directly knocked Ed Drago, the demon fruit power, into the sea. Some people are too arrogant and irritable. I think they need to experience what it feels like to be close to death. Dai knew very well how frightening the powerless feeling of drowning in the sea was to those with abilities. Therefore, he wanted Brother Ed to calm down and see clearly what the situation was. Be careful and don't fall into the sea. Otherwise, I won't save you. Crow pushed up his glasses, smiled faintly, then walked up to these pirates and threw them into the sea one by one. As a member of Edrago's crew, how could they not go to sea to rescue their captain? What would it look like to stay on the boat one by one? I don't expect you to save me, but I will never fall into the sea. Dai stood at the stern of the boat with his arms folded, looking at the pirates churning on the sea and the broken cabin planks, waiting quietly for Ed Drago to be rescued. If he dies, then Dai can only say that Ed Drago's fate ends here. On the other side, Zoro quickly chopped Mr. 11 to the ground, snatched the Liang Kwai Dao Hua Zhou from his hand, and threw away his ordinary long knife with a grin. One big sharp sword, Wado Ikamanji, and two good sharp swords, Hua Zhou and Yukizai. He finally collected 3 famous swords, and he could use the 3-sword sword technique scrupulously. Hua Zhou, it is indeed a good knife. Zoro looked at the flame patterns on the Hua Zhou sword with satisfaction. Hua Zhou and Shuizao were both very poetic names. He was suddenly inspired to give these 2 swords some more elegant names for their moves. Traveling to Kyushu in a romantic way. Climb up the snow and walk among the flowers, leaving no enemy behind. Suivate. It seems that I need to choose a few more pretentious names to complement my strong character as a pirate hunter and live up to the glory of being a naming fruit user. As for Zhang Yao and the Catman brothers, they had already begun to search the underworld merchant ship of the Baroque Company Limited, moving everything that needed to be moved, robbing everything that needed to be moved, and tying up everyone on the ship. Then he transferred to Ed Drago's pirate ship, searched for things in the ruined cabin, and conscientiously implemented Captain Dai's orders. Don't take any advantage from the enemy. Then move away all other valuable things, leaving garbage and scraps for the enemy. But in the end, the stitches left behind may be buried in the fire or the sea along with the enemy's pirate ship. Dai, let's spar when you have time. I want you to understand how strong I am with 3 good swords. Zoro held his new sword, raised his eyebrows, and said proudly, next time, he must cut through Dai Duo's barrier turtle shell. Let's reach this steel-cutting realm first. Dai didn't look back. He just responded casually to the high-spirited Zoro, letting him pretend to fail. Zoro was so angry that Dai's barrier was harder than steel, and he learned for Dai that even if he reached the level of steel cutting, there wouldn't be much chance of breaking Dai's barrier without high-level armament hockey. On the sea, the swordsman Gorith finally dragged Edrago, who was like a lump of mud, to the sea and pushed him onto the largest wooden board in the cabin. Now that even the pirate ship has been occupied by these powerful, uninvited guests, Gorith doesn't know what to do next. Edrago lay on his back on the wooden board, vomiting water, and the fear in his eyes had not dissipated. The feeling of powerlessness and threat of death in the sea made his memory extremely profound. Edrago had just regained a little strength and sat up when he saw the BD on his pirate ship, looking at him expressionlessly. This made him angry again, as if he had forgotten the fear just now. Lousy is going to kill you. Edrag stood up suddenly and opened his mouth, but the wooden board under his feet made him unsteady, and the sonic cannon in his mouth began to light up and darken. I'm afraid that if I lose my balance, I'll fall back into the sea and experience that powerless feeling again. Hey, Captain Dai, it seems that someone needs to get close to death again. Crow sat on the railing at the stern of the boat, looking at the irritable Edrago with a half-smiling expression. I will give him 7 chances. If it doesn't work, I will sacrifice his blood to 3rd-generation Kitetsu. Strike the barrier, Dai said lightly, and then fired a medium-sized barrier again, directly hitting Edrago and the big wooden board. The board shattered, and Edrago flew upside down again and crashed into the sea. A series of bubbles emerged, scaring the swordsman Gorith into diving into the sea again to salvage the captain with a brain full of muscles. Chapter 17, Brother Adelaide. Are you a thief? After a while, the swordsman Gorith dragged Edrag up again, but there were no suitable large wooden boards on the sea. Edrago could only lie down on a piece of broken wood, but his body below the chest was still soaked in seawater, which made him weak. He didn't even have much strength to hug the board, let alone curse. Dai stood at the stern of the ship that was blasted away by the impact barrier. He did not ask for help, but continued to quietly watch Ed Drago and other pirates soaking in the sea. Zoro also watched Dai Dai's operations with great interest. He held a bottle of wine and sat on the railing on the other side of the ruins in the middle of the pirate ship, drinking and watching with Crow. Time passed little by little. I don't know whether it was because Ed Drago was unable to speak or because he would rather die than beg for mercy and just lay on the broken board without speaking. And some pirates have been trembling all over after being in the sea for a long time. If they continue like this, they will sink into the sea automatically without the need for sea beasts to attack them. Swordsman Gorith is also struggling. It is really unlucky to catch up with such a stupid young captain. However, the captain did not ask for mercy, and it was not easy for him to surrender, because doing so would be despised by both the enemy and our pirate groups. The captain on the other side might despise him, and his own captain would definitely hate him. However, when you're unable to hold on physically, just despise yourself if you're despised. Living is the most important thing. Dai Dai didn't expect that this reckless man could be so tough, that demon fruit power could persist in the sea for so long. It was just the blood of some injured pirates, plus the blood flowing from Edrag's mouth and nose, which slowly began to attract some carnivorous sea beasts. The appearance of a dorsal fin made the atmosphere on the sea become tense. Suddenly, a pirate gangster screamed in panic and was dragged into the sea with a pop, and a ball of blood emerged. This frightened the other pirates into frantically begging for mercy, and kept climbing onto the pirate ship just to survive. At this time, the Catman brothers, who relied on their strength, kicked them back with a grin, fully demonstrating what it means to be a cruel pirate, even though they are just little pirates with a bounty of 7 million. The swordsman Gorith also began to become nervous and drew out his sword, ready to fight the sea beast at any time, but the helpless Edrago had no ability to protect himself. "Captain Edrag, you should say something," Gallus said anxiously, holding a wooden board in his left hand and a knife in his right hand, staring at the sea seriously and looking into the sea from time to time, ready to fight against sea monsters. I don't have the energy to speak," Ed Drago said softly. He found that the longer he soaked, the weaker he became. At the beginning, he still had some strength, but at that time he was still a little angry and didn't want to ask for mercy. But when he couldn't hold on anymore and was about to surrender, he found that he didn't even have the strength to speak loudly. "Captain, can we surrender now?" If Gorith and Edrag hadn't been closer, they probably wouldn't have heard Edrag's feeble moans. "Hurry up." Ed Drago's fingers clasping the board were trembling, and he was about to lose his hold and sink into the sea. He had obviously started to slowly turn his head to look at Gallus, but this guy didn't even see it. "Our captain is willing to surrender. Sir on board, please save us." When Gallus heard Brother Edrag's words, he rolled his eyes. "It turns out that you were ready to surrender a long time ago. This made Lousy think that you're going to fight to the end and refuse to surrender. It turns out I don't have the energy to speak." Hearing that Brother Ed couldn't hold on any longer, Crow also showed a smile. "Captain Dai Dai, I've heard that some nobles like to boil eagles to tame wild falcons. I didn't expect you to boil thieves." Crow felt that this method of killing the enemy's wildness and extinguishing the opponent's anger was very effective. If Dai Dai had squeezed and trapped him in the barrier ball for several days and nights, he would have probably left a psychological shadow. "Please stop, Dihua. I don't have such thoughts. I just want to see how long he can last." Dai Dai glanced at Crow strangely. Could this guy's high IQ be developing in the same direction as Demiurge? What does Dihua mean? Crow was puzzled by the look in Dai Dai's eyes. Didn't Dai Dai intend to subdue Ed Drago's arrogance and subdue him? No reason. In Crow's eyes, Dai Dai's IQ might be higher than his. He felt that everything Dai Dai did was to conquer Ed Drago. "It's okay. Rescue them." Dai Dai turned to the Catman brothers and ordered, and Zoro saw the shark and sea beast rushing towards Gorith and El Drago. He immediately drew his knife, quickly jumped on the broken board, and slashed the sea beast in 2 and 3 pieces, and jumped back into the boat gracefully. This scene made Gallus feel grateful to Zoro. It turned out that these guys were not all cold-blooded pirates. As a Drago was fished out, each of the pirates also desperately climbed onto the ship. This time, there was finally no obstacle from the two catmen. Your life will be mine from now on. What do you think? Dai leaned over and said to Ed Drago, who was lying on the deck, with an undeniable sense of oppression in his tone. If you defeat me today, I can leave my life to you. But if I can defeat you in the future, I will be the captain. Brother Edrag, who had recovered a little strength, still said a little unconvinced, yes, you can have a chance to challenge me once a month, and it is also a time for me to test your strength. Remember, if you are too weak, you may die on this road. Dai said calmly that the challenges from the crew were not only the driving force for Dai to become stronger, but also the motivation for Dai to urge his men to become stronger. Huh, that's good. Then I'll call you captain for a month first, and next month Lousy will defeat you and become a new captain. Brother Adelaide stood up and said arrogantly, even if he was beaten, his character would not change so quickly. Bang! The punch that entangled armament hockey made Edrag's face turn red and blood bleed from the corner of his mouth. He bowed like a big red shrimp again and fell to the deck. On the other side, Crow's mouth twitched slightly and his stomach ached. He seemed to have received such a punch. Goreth, Zhang and the Catman brothers all swallowed. The force was too terrifying. Before you succeed in the challenge, remember to be respectful. After Dai finished speaking, he stretched out his hand to Brother Ed with a faint smile on his face. Got it, my captain. Ed Drago's face was twisted in pain. He gritted his teeth, put his hand on Dai Duo's hand, and stood up despite the pain. This guy's fist was too painful. Welcome, my crew. Dai finally showed a normal smile. Chapter 18 Nico, Robin Drago's shabby pirate ship, was used as a dismissal by his pirate minions. These junks, no matter how high they are, they should go back to farming as soon as possible. There is no bounty on this guy, Mr. 11, and he is a member of the Baroque Working Society and is protected in some way. This guy kept emphasizing that there was a big force behind him and then threatened DUI to let him go. As a result, Dai directly slaughtered them all, sacrificed the sword to third-generation Ghost, and then killed people and burned the boat, leaving a trail of black smoke in the sky, and then left ruthlessly. As for the swordsman Gallus, after hard work and Ed Drago's request, he was left on the ship by Dai, making him a trainee member like the Catman brothers. Dai suddenly broke into the battle between Ed Drago and MR11 this time, and did not let MR11 pass the news to Baroque Working Group, so he should not have exposed themselves. However, the mission target of MR11 is Ed Drago. When the time comes, as long as the members of the Baroque Working Society find Ed Drago on Dai's ship, they will definitely be able to guess the reason. After all, the current vice president of Baroque Works is Nico Robin, a smart woman. Of course, Dai had no intention of being afraid of them, and by the time they came to his door, Dai's strength had become unknown. What's more, except for Crocodile, the Logia Sanson fruit ability user, Dillian didn't even notice Mr. 1 who had Dice fruit. Although Dai did not expect to come into contact with Crocodile's forces so quickly, things often backfired. Zhang, this guy, rushed to deliver a barking phone bug to Dai's hand and accidentally pressed the answer button. Then the phone bug turned into a cowboy hat, and the phone bug also looked at Dai, transmitting some of his features to the phone bug on the opposite side. Huh. A strange gentleman is in trouble. Is the original owner of this phone bug still alive? And I wonder if you can tell me your name, sir? A magnetic female voice came from the phone bug. When a woman opposite saw that the phone bug looked different from usual, she could guess that something had happened to her man. After all, she often encountered this kind of thing. Not every member of the Baroque Working Group can safely complete the invitation task. That guy has entered the belly of the sea beast. Dai wanted to get rid of the phone bug, because Baroque Works was of little use value to him now. But when he heard Robin's familiar voice, he unconsciously wanted to chat more. Dai admitted that he liked the fair-skinned and beautiful Robin 3 years from now, not the brown-skinned and bamboo-clad Robin now. What a sad news. Then you may have provoked a great organization. The voiceover there was a bit sinister, and she didn't care about the death of Mr. 11, but she still wanted to maintain the dignity of Baroque works. Really? My Robin Sean. A greeting from O'Hara. Also, to kill such a little guy, you shouldn't need to let the crocodile know about it. Dai also showed a rare happy smile, which made the Catman brothers and Zorro widen their eyes when they saw it. Not normal, a little abnormal. Why did Captain Dai start laughing while chatting with a strange woman? There must be adultery involved. Crow had silently memorized the information about Robin, O'Hara, and Crocodile. He felt that this was some very important information. Who are you? Nico Robin on the other side asked solemnly, losing his calm tone at the beginning and even a little panicked. She didn't expect that this stranger from East Blue actually knew the details and identities of her and Sand Crocodile. If the news spread that she was the son of a devil, it would be another great escape that would never end. Just think of me as a stranger who knows you very well. I like you very much in the future. I look forward to meeting you. Dai smiled and dismissed the phone bug. He just let Nico Robin think wildly, mobilized her mood, and asked her to take the initiative to investigate and get closer to Dai. But the next moment, Dai felt the atmosphere was different. Every crew member he saw looked at him with strange eyes. I like you very much in the future. Ha ha. It's so funny. Zorro, the green algae head, was a heartless road idiot without even blinking an eye. He actually started teasing Dai, holding his belly, and started laughing crazily. However, this was the first time he saw Dai's disgusting appearance, and he couldn't bear it. Others were also suppressing laughter, but they didn't have the guts to provoke the captain. Dai also blushed for a rare moment, damn phone bug, but he soon became livid, pulled out the third-generation Kitetsu, slowly walked towards Zorro, and then started to chop off the green algae head. It is urgent to protect the image of the captain. At this time, on the Alabasta of the Grand Line, Nico Robin is a little irritable. She has exposed her identity again. How come East Blue, the weakest sea, knows the information about her and Crocodile? She immediately started looking up the latest information on East Blue, trying to find out who the person across the street was. She took a look at the invitation mission from MR11, then carefully looked at Ed Drago's information and saw the ugly appearance on the wanted poster. How could such a rough man have that young voice just now? Did Mr. 11 be intercepted and killed by people from other forces? Nico Robin also checked the development history of a Drago and found that this pirate's trajectory was impossible to be qualified to know the information about her and Crocodile. Who is it? Nico Robin now wants to go to East Blue to find this mysterious person. Not only because the mysterious person will expose her information at any time, but also because the mysterious person seems to know her very well and may also know something about O'Hara. This filled her with intellectual curiosity. Robin looked at the various things going on at Baroque Works. She couldn't escape and couldn't go to East Blue. It would be easier if this guy was in Grand Line. Looking at the phone bug in her hand, she was ready to try it again when she had time. Because the other party hung up the phone just now, it meant that the other party no longer wanted to communicate with her, and she had to find another time. Aboard the Baiji Braku, Zorro had a pair of panda eyes, and Kakuzu's mouth was beaten purple and black, while the other crew members looked at Dai, who was unharmed, and truly felt the majesty of Captain. Captain Dai's defense is so intractable that no one can break his invincible defense. Damn it, Turtle Shell, Dui. Sooner or later, I will chop you down. The green algae-headed Zorro grimaced in pain, but he was still unconvinced and kept saying harsh words. And Drago is ready to challenge Zorro and Crow and establish his position on the ship. Although he can't beat Dai, he must at least beat these two guys. Otherwise, how can he live his life? Chapter 19, picking up a devil fruit for free on a desert island. Zorro, Crow, and Drago are dueling each other, and they have to use the battle to determine their status on the ship. Only strength has the right to speak. Facing Drago's provocation, neither Zorro nor Crow refused. Each of them was very confident in their own strength. I will not be merciful. Don't die under my sonic cannon. Before the battle, Drago was full of confidence and extremely arrogant, because he believed that no one except Dai could stop his laser sound waves. But the result made the swordsman Goraz lose his teeth. Apart from wounds all over his body, Edrago couldn't win a game. Although the attack power of his sonic cannon is very powerful and has the terrifying destructive power to defeat the enemy in one strike, his agility and release speed are too overwhelming. Facing the speedy Crow and the genius swordsman Roranoa Zoro, Edrago only fired one sonic cannon move, and the battle was over without hitting. Edrago was covered in wounds and sat next to the big tree with a pale face. He continued to look at Zoro and Crow's extremely fast battle with dull eyes. The afterimages let him know what fighting speed meant. Being accustomed to the pirate battle mode of bombarding ships whenever they met, Edrago once felt that his sonic cannon was invincible. Unexpectedly, today, I lost 3 times in one day. This makes him unable to accept this fact. It's too slow. Can your charging time be shortened? Maybe you don't need such a thick energy wave. Wouldn't it be faster and more penetrating if it were smaller? Dai took a rare opportunity to enlighten this little brother. He didn't want his crew members to be beaten to autism on the first day. I haven't tried it. I just want the bigger the better. Edrago said confusedly that before he bombed other people's ships, the bigger the better, and the distance between the 2 ships gave him enough time to accumulate power. Practice hard in the future and develop sonic cannons of various sizes and speeds. Also, forget your speed difference. Your defense is so poor. You have grown such a tall and rough body in vain. Dai looked at the beast like Edrago, how he was chopped down by Zoro and Crow in just a few seconds. Unfortunately, there is no ship's doctor on the ship now, so I can only bandage it casually and rely on myself to heal the rest. I will definitely become stronger. Edrago gritted his teeth and said he didn't expect that he was a pirate captain yesterday, and today he can only be a 4th in command. He couldn't accept it. Then come on, not only can you challenge me every month, I will also check your strength at any time. Don't stand still, otherwise I won't show mercy. Dai said calmly to Edrago, and the duel between Zoro and Crow finally came to a close. After all, Zoro, a pirate hunter with Warcraft-level physical strength, defeated the agile Baiji Crow and established himself as the 2nd in command on the ship. Crow's face looked a little ugly, while Zoro showed a victorious smile. Sure enough, apart from Dai, the turtle shell, he is the strongest person. Okay, let's have a party. Dai ordered, and brothers Zhangao, Gallus, and Catman immediately started busy. These pirates with a little bounty on their heads were only worthy of being minions on this ship. Dai took out the chart and determined his position. Kodo, Island Waters, Shieldstown 153 Marine Branch. There's a trash pirate group wandering nearby. The trash colonel of the 153 Marine Branch is my defeated general. There is no excitement in this sea area. When are we going to fight the Krieg pirate group? Crow accepted the fact that he lost to Zoro, and when he saw Dai looking at the map, he began to play his role. Even if he couldn't defeat Zoro, he could only be responsible for the wisdom of the ship. That's really no good opponent. I'll go see if there's any game. Dai put away the chart and saw that the Catman brothers were grilling fish again. What the hell is this? Moreover, this guy Crow also likes to eat fish. He is indeed a kitten from the Black Cat Pirates. He walked toward the forest to see what prey there was to add to the banquet. Zoro had no requirements for food, as long as he had something to eat. Seeing Captain Dai go hunting, they also wanted to enjoy the captain's efforts. What's the name of the nearby pirate group? How much is the bounty? Zoro was happily biting a piece of grilled fish and holding a bottle of wine. As the 2nd most important person on the boat, he was going to enjoy the first grilled fish when Dai left. It seems they are called the Alvida Pirates. They are a fat woman. The bounty is only 5 million. Even the Catman brothers can't compare. Crow completely despises this trash pirate group and has no desire to take action. He thinks that if they kill the Krieg pirate group, they can go to the Grand Line. 5 million is indeed a bit low, but if there was no food in the past, Lousy would cut them off in exchange for food money. Zoro said with emotion that because of being a road idiot, he often loses bounty criminals. So he will chase every pirate group he can see and never let go of any opportunity. Otherwise, he will really starve for 3 days and 9 meals. It was also this madness that allowed him to slowly break into his current name. He used to think that wandering alone was cool, but he didn't expect that now, after forming a group, he knew what a human life was. I know, green algae head idiot. The corner of Crow's mouth tilted, revealing a contemptuous Dragon King smile. Being around in the sea, the Lucci attribute is indeed a laughing matter. A hole. No. 3. How do you have the right to laugh at me? Number 2. Zoro felt Crow's smile and immediately cursed. Although he was a fool, he was not stupid. He could see Crow's disdainful eyes at a glance. Crow's expression really changed. Damn it, number 3. Being strong in a one-on-one challenge doesn't mean you are really strong. Lousy has other ways to kill the enemy. On the other side, Dai, who was wandering around the desert island looking for prey, seemed to have discovered a great thing. Pink but shape, slippery fruit. Dai immediately ran over and picked up a pink fruit with a smooth and shiny surface, which looked a bit like a pig's brain. I didn't expect that I could be so lucky. I can see devil fruit even when I'm wandering around a deserted island. Dai was holding the devil fruit and felt a little ups and downs in his heart. Was he about to turn his fortune around? He thought of what Crow had just said about the trash pirate group wandering nearby. Could it be that fat BD Alvita? This fat woman was punched away by Straw Hat Luffy. Did she end up on this desert island? Dai was no longer in the mood to continue looking for extra prey. He picked up a devil fruit worth hundreds of millions for nothing. What a blessing. If this Paramecia slippery fruit were put up for a large-scale auction, with its exaggerated beauty effect, it would be estimated that it would fetch 1 billion Baileys from those rich women. If celestial dragons knew about it, they might be able to get 2 billion belly without any problem. However, if a man eats it, will he become heaven-defying, several times more beautiful than the noble pirate Cavendish of the Handsome Pirates? Chapter 20. Big Daddy Pirates. The crew members who were eating and drinking were a little disappointed when they saw that Dai did not come back with the prey and only had a pink fruit in his hand. The extra meal failed. Only Crow looked at Dai in shock. This guy actually got a devil fruit? This is devil fruit? What kind of ability is it? Crow stood up suddenly. If he had a powerful devil fruit ability, he wouldn't mind turning into a landlubber. Only then did the others react, especially Drago, who had the power of the sonic fruit. That's the pattern, and it's very unpalatable. Drago remembered that disgusting smell that was so memorable that he would never forget it in his life. Zoro is only a little curious, but he is very determined to become a swordsman. He will never eat devil fruit and become a pure swordsman. Paramecia slippery fruit, a devil fruit that can make people beautiful. Dai chuckled and said he was ready to leave it to his woman. Maybe he could make a woman more beautiful than the pirate empress. Become beautiful. Crow lost interest all of a sudden. He couldn't significantly increase his combat power. What was the use of coming? He would become a landlubber. Is the captain going to sell it? The Catman brothers also looked at Dai with envy. They could pick up a devil fruit worth hundreds of millions when they went out for a walk. Why didn't they encounter such a good thing when they went to collect supplies? No shortage of money. Dai responded casually, then found a treasure box, kept it, and waited for its owner to appear. Everyone stopped looking when they saw devil fruit being put away. Dai, are you ready for the name of our pirate group? Once we kill the Krieg pirates, we will become famous in East Blue. Unless you let us all go and leave green algae alone. Otherwise, we will all be wanted by Marine. Rather than being randomly assigned a name by Marine, we might as well think of it now. Crow asked while biting into a grilled fish. Now, except Dai and Zoro, each of them had a bounty on their backs. Even Gorath, a little-known pirate swordsman, has a bounty of 10 million Baileys. The names of these pirate groups are either nicknames or captains' names. How else can they be chosen? Dai smiled and said, besides the Big Daddy Pirates, what else could they be called? The names of the 4 Emperors pirate group are all nicknames of the captain. His Big Daddy pirate ship is no worse than Charlotte Lean's Big Mom pirate ship. Dai Pirates? Babaya Pirates? Big Daddy Pirates. Crow read out three choices: the East Blue Underworld Bateau family, the former military advisor, and Big Daddy Daddy Babaya. He still had relatively clear information about this captain. So your nickname is Big Daddy. You really take advantage of others. Even the name is the same. The green algae head Zorro said unhappily, "Why the hell don't you call me Dad Pirates? Please call me Daddy." Ha! Dai laughed. This nickname and name could finally show its advantageous properties. Zorro, Crow, and Edrago all looked at the captain with dark expressions on their faces. Long live the Big Daddy Pirates. Captain Big Daddy is the strongest. Django, who is also a dance musician, immediately started singing, dancing, and rapping to show his presence as a follower who had been a trainee for 2.5 weeks. "Oh, I can't help it. You are the captain. Let the Big Daddy Pirates be the Big Daddy Pirates." Baiji Crow took a deep breath, adjusted his glasses, and said helplessly, "It's so ugly. Don't worry, everyone. In 2 months, I will be able to defeat the captain, and then we will change our name to the E-Drag Pirates." Sonic Adelaide patted his chest and said passionately with confidence. But what he received was a few pairs of idiotic looks. Even Adelaide's original crew member, Gorith, felt that there was something wrong with his original captain's brain. Ha, how dare a number 4 brag?
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.